welcome to episode 54 of MitoLife Radio. I'm your host, Matt Blackburn. Today I'm speaking with my friend, Raw Matt. I've been friends with this guy for about 4 or 5 years. I first found him on YouTube and was intrigued, and I think we connected on the longevity topic and anti-aging. And what I like about him is he's not quick to fly off the handle. Like I notice a lot of people, even in the longevity space, they get really emotional very fast. And so you guys know I'm a fan of red meat, I'm a fan of eggs and raw milk and dairy in general. And here I'm interviewing a fruitarian. Why? Isn't it the opposite of what I talk about? Well, there are a lot of similarities, and then also discussions like this are very beneficial because I see a lot of podcasts where it's a carnivore podcast, right? And they're only having on ketogenic carnivore people. That's so boring. I don't want to do that here. I want to have on a wide variety of people and not have debate, because that doesn't go anywhere. And I kind of talked with Matt about that at the beginning with battling with studies. You can find a study to prove anything. And I think there are books about that, actually. So Matt is about experience, like myself. And I could say he's the smartest vegan that I know, and he eats bee products, and he actually collects them himself. So I've gone foraging with this guy. He's a master forager. He's really good at plant identification and processing plants and all of that. But I think if you're going to eat a lot of plants, Matt's onto something, to go for the fruit rather than the vegetables. Because with the fruit, you're getting a lot less of the NPK. It's more just straight fructose, which is awesome for a person. And I'm a big fan of actually eating local and seasonal. He's a proponent for buying online dried or frozen fruit. I do think that throws off our circadian rhythm somewhat to eat foods out of season and grown far away. So my plan here in the winter is pemmican, raw goat's milk, steaks, a lot of bone broth, and honey, maple syrup, coffee. That's most of my diet. And then the summer, I'll probably be essentially fruitarian plus some dairy. I'll be eating a ton of fruit in the summer. And so we get into sugar and all the myths about sugar and how you can make saturated fat from sugar. So anyway, I'll get to the show. All right, we're here with Raw Matt. Welcome to the show.
What's up, man? Nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to come on. I was telling you before we started recording, you're the first vegan I've had on, and you said you actually don't like that term because of what the vegans are doing right out there and how they're talking.
Yeah, see, a vegan would get mad because it's more than just diet, but I eat a vegan diet, so what am I supposed to call it, right?
That's funny. Yeah, but you also eat bee products, and we'll get into a lot of stuff and take a lot of herbs, which I think are really important. And recently, we were talking about Robert Cassar, and there's all these people that are coming out now and saying they're eating meat. But we might be jumping ahead, but I just see a lot of talk about inflammation. That was Cassar's whole thing, is if you eat too many plants, you're going to get inflamed. And so animal products or meat is anti-inflammatory. And I think where he was coming from with that was with the phytates, the phytic acid, the lectins. But that's really more vegetables and grains, right? You're unique. And why I wanted to have you on the show is because I love fruit, and here there's snow on the ground, there's no fruit, but in the summer I'm going to be eating a ton of fruit, and that's anti-inflammatory, right? It's more the vegetables that are giving vegans issues.
Yeah, I've seen Robert Cassar's diet personally. It's a horrible, horrible diet. So there's no doubt that he caused himself some inflammation. As far as that's the main reason that he's affected, who knows? But let's just assume that he's correct in his own diagnosis and that he has massive inflammation, which I don't know why. He's supposed to be a doctor that's curing people, and he forgot to check himself, I guess. I don't know. But regardless, if he's saying that he's now moved to meat for for anti-inflammatory, then I don't even know what to say to that either, because that elevates C-reactive proteins. It's high in inflammatory azelaic acid. I mean, it has TMAOs in it. It's got saturated fat, which is inflammatory. I mean, it causes some insulin resistance if he has lots of it at the same time. Has insulin-like growth factor. I mean, we could go down the list, but obviously he's focusing on the wrong thing if he's trying to remove inflammation and then adding inflammatory foods to the diet.
Yeah, it's interesting. And we were talking on the phone earlier. I mean, people can go back and forth. Like you and I have different views on things, but what good is it to just give study after study? And I like you and your whole mentality. The reason why we're friends is it's like we're all about experience and action, right? And so you told me that a couple of years ago. You said, a lot better than knowledge is to actually put into practice what you're doing. And that's really what counts, right? Because studies, you can just go on forever looking for studies.
Oh, yeah. There's somewhere out there where an industry wants to promote something, like let's say chocolate. That's a huge superfood right now, they say, right? But that's so endorsed by like Hershey's and all these chocolate companies that they can put funding to find something good for an element. And therefore, cigarettes did it for a very long time. Remember, 1 out of 3 doctors support smoking. So they can manipulate things. So we have to be very cautious. Human beings are unique in that because of cooking, we can eat any food group on Earth. Without it, we can't. But regardless, we can eat anything as human beings. But we want to know what is the most optimal. What do we gain the best for our health that we can constantly do? What can we implement that can make us healthier and live longer? That's all that it comes down to. So yes, we can eat everything, but should we?
I love it. Yeah, and my diet right now is pretty much honey, maple syrup, and we're talking about North Idaho winter. So honey, maple syrup, heavy starch, a lot of potatoes, and like a steak a day. Sometimes I'll take days off, maybe 3, 4, 5 eggs a day, and that's pretty much it. And then a lot of medicinal mushrooms, and I just make sure to get a lot of those non-inflammatory amino acids in from gelatin and bone broth, and I feel really good on this program. And of course, I'm doing other things, and I think you and I both agree there's so much more to health than just food, right? Like there's light, which sunlight can harm us, right? And a lot of people are obsessed with that, and getting the right light and the water, and there's so many different aspects to it, lowering stress.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's it. Everybody thinks it's usually just one thing. That's one of the biggest problems and confusing things when you first get into it, because you hear about one of the new theories like, oh, it's all about antioxidants. So then you're like really gung-ho about where can I get the most? And then you realize there's fat and water soluble versions. And then you go down that rabbit hole for a while. And then all of a sudden you delve over and somebody goes, no, it's all about how long your blood cells can live, like the Hayflick limit. And then pretty soon, no, it's all about metabolic enzymes. So then you research that. Pretty soon you've got this massive puzzle in front of you that you just go, oh, it's everything. It's not just one, like you said. So it's a really fun, it's like a journey that you go through, and you compile all these different pieces of the puzzle and you put it together and find what works for you.
I love that. And speaking of journey, when did you start eating raw? It was like when you were 13, right? You were super young, or 17, or?
Oh no, much older. I was in my 20s, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was in 2002, 2001 or 2002. I just tell everyone 2002 because I don't really remember, but it was right around 2002. And a friend of mine now, not at the time, just kind of made some derogatory comment as I was eating a roast beef sandwich. He was a vegan at the time, so he was disgusted as the blood was dripping out, and he asked what I was eating, and I said a sandwich, and I just said food, I was really derogatory back. That's what it was. And he said, why? I said, I don't know, man, because I'm fucking hungry, right? I got really pissed. And I'm a full-time cage fighter at this time, by the way. So he said something derogatory in return. So I was getting madder and madder at this guy. Little did I know he was a vegan. So I just finally broke down and said, okay, man, what should I eat? He just said, how about fruit? I said, fruit? Are you kidding me? I'd be hungry in like 2 hours. What am I supposed to eat then? He said, more fruit. I said, am I on like handed camera or something? Like, what's going on here? This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You can't just live on fruit. You're hungry all the time. I mean, I've tried eating a fruit meal. You're in the bathroom like 10 minutes later. I said, you know what? If this is possible, I'll do it because I love fruit. And the next day, I just went full fruitarian. I didn't really think about it. I just did it. I said, let's see how long this lasts. After like a month, I go, oh my gosh, this is incredible. My endurance went off the charts in class. Matter of fact, I even competed in a triathlon that I had never even trained for. So I did really good. I was super excited to find it because it enhanced my athletic performance. So I just never stopped. So I went 100% fruitarian in one day by chance.
That's wild. And I think you told me before you were going to those events, like you were at the Raw Spirit Festival, right? Or something like that with like Peter Ragnar and Vitalis and all those characters.
Oh, that was early on. That was back in 2007 and 2008. So I had already been Raw for quite some time. Yeah, I went with Marcus Rothkrantz. We drove down there in his car and we got out, and it was one of the first ever events of those kind. And I saw Matt Monarch the first year he was there. And Peter Ragnar was there. Marcus gave a health talk. It was fun. It was really exciting. That was back when it was new and there wasn't such a discord between even people in that same group. Like even today, those same people don't like each other. It's very odd.
Yeah, it's really weird, the fighting. And I think if you're not studying health and you're not, on YouTube and making videos on YouTube, you don't see all the drama, but all the infighting just cracks me up because there's always people making response videos, and it's like, I guess people like drama. I guess it's a way to get views, right? That's the main reason people are doing it.
Oh, so true. On YouTube, if you want to grow, you've got to have some kind of a niche, and drama is where it's at right now, unfortunately, because you end up being, you're not yourself. You know what I mean? You're saying things that you normally wouldn't say. You're doing things that you normally wouldn't do. So the audience doesn't even know what's really true because you're not acting yourself. So it's kind of a shame because you're trying to get a message across, but to even get an audience for that message, you have to be ridiculous like Durian Rider, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the reason why fruitarianism, like I did the whole Doug Graham thing, and I was inspired by Durian Rider. I was riding my bike. I was, had my dates in my backpack. And I was doing the whole thing. I was buying the best bananas I could, though. I'll give myself credit. I was buying fair trade bananas, not just, stupid organic Chiquita bananas. Like I was finding, it's always better. I always tell people with red meat or anything, find the smaller brands because they're going to be a lot better quality. Or with butter, like don't do Kerrygold because that's at Vaughn's now. Like do smaller batch because you're going to get higher quality there. But with like acid rain, NPK fertilizer, glyphosate, chemtrails, we're dealing with so much pollution that's making the soil not only depleted but toxic. That's a lot of what I educate about. And I think that accumulates in the vegetables way more than it does the fruit, because with fruit you have actually a tree, right? There's more kind of filtration going on there, and there's less anti-nutrients concentrated.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why a lot of the heavy plant eaters, the vegetarians, that's why they kind of crash and burn. They do lots of greens, and that's not really an optimal food group, especially like to be having every single day, of course. But that's just one of my things. I've never been a big fan of greens, which is ironic because vegans always consume greens. Everyone's told greens are good. Green makes clean. They have all these acronyms, and they're always trying to force kale into their body any way possible, even if it's dousing it in oil and all these spices and things like that. I'm guilty. I invented the kale chip. So I did try to make, in the early stages, I was trying to get people to eat healthier. And I did think cruciferous vegetables were a little bit good because you see studies about how it helps cure cancer. So I'm like, okay, maybe people need to eat more of this. Now I'm just not a fan at all. Of course, when you do have a disease, that's a different story. But again, for the average person and the average person listening, don't eat them. Just avoid them.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of context too, with just a lot of things with health, and a lot of people are missing that. That's why I like working with consults. I'll get a message on Instagram. It's like, Matt, how do you heal this X condition? And I'm like, I need to know if you're living in an apartment. Where's your router? How many smart meters? Where's the 5G tower? there's so many aspects. What shower water are what water are you bathing in? There's so many things. So,
well, for sure. And I usually tell people this, it's not what you're going to start doing that's going to cure you, it's what you're going to stop. So make sure that you stop. Whatever you've been doing is what's caused the problem. So you need to identify what that is. But if you just drop everything, you don't have to really identify it. You just have to drop everything. But that's really hard for a lot of people to do and to get their mindset around that, right? Now, everybody thinks like, oh, if I add this in, if I add kombucha will cure me. No, because you're probably still doing what's caused it. So I like to get that out there as well.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I love that. And getting back to like cruciferous vegetables and kale, oxalates is trending right now, especially in the ex-vegan community, the carnivore community. And it's like oxalates are this extreme poison, and they concentrate in the body, and there might be a lot of truth to that, but I think people are blaming the wrong thing. And if the liver's working, oxalates aren't that big of a deal, right? I mean, to me, that doesn't mean consume tons of greens, because we're not a cow, but
Yeah. This is the thing. The daily oxalate range that harms your kidneys, which is neophyrotic, it means that it's about 44 to 352 milligram a day. So that range isn't too hard to reach for most people. And so if they have like an oxalate problem, they can reach it by like eating lots of spinach, for example, because I think there's 450 milligrams in 75 grams. Or like 700, well, I'll just say 700 milligrams in 100 grams. That might make it easier for people. So they'll reach it real quick with something like spinach. But if you have like quinoa, it's going to be really, really low. I'm not a fan of peanut butter. I'm not a fan at all, but just to give you the numbers, that's also about 100 milligrams per 100 grams. So even that has oxalates, which can hurt your kidneys. And it's mostly the kidneys that they have to worry about. Otherwise, oxalic acid isn't really anything to be concerned about. It's just your kidneys.
That's interesting. Is the liver involved at all in detoxing them, or?
Not really. I mean, the liver does everything. Don't get me wrong. It's doing 500 different things, and it is the first filter for detoxification. But since oxalic acid is a water-soluble element, it's going to go to the kidneys, because the kidneys are what filter anything out that's really harsh. That's why urine therapy people usually harm their kidneys by re-drinking their own urine, is because of the oxalates that are trying to get excreted through the urine.
Wow. Yeah, I've met a few of those people in person, and there's something going on in the brain.
Yeah, it very popular in the health world, but outside you never hear of it. The military did some training in it, but that's about it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever gain traction. It won't be like a P movement, but yeah, and I guess something came up when you were talking about that, like peanut butter and the nut butters. Like, I remember I was slamming, this is when I was living with my parents, and I was just watching a lot of YouTube and experimenting a lot. And, I wasn't just an armchair quarterback. I was driving to conferences, working my butt off, doing Uber and Lyft to get there, and, just really trying to experience. And I did the Lou Corona program, the Kassar, I did just everyone's program, Cousins, all of them. And, I found that nut butter was very addicting, and I was doing organic almond butter that I would buy at Sprouts, and I think I would spend like $30 every couple days, and I was going through jars. And recently Matt Monarch crashed, and I think part of it he attributed to heavy nut butter consumption. He got like a colon disease, right?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I warned him a long time ago on that, because he was eating a pound of it a day. And he believed, this is what he believes, and he probably still does, and I don't know why, that if you grind nuts up, you get rid of the tannic acid, the phytic acid, and the gliadins. That is completely untrue. That does not get rid of them. You would have to soak them in water, pour out the water, and then continue to do so until the water starts to run clear. That's that browning that's in that water. Drink that. Matter of fact, drink that water sometime if you think that's healthy for you. There's no way in the world that you would ever do this. Of course, you'd hurt yourself. Matter of fact, you would hurt your pancreas so bad that it would enlarge. So that's what he did for years. He constantly consumed something that's very detrimental, tons of enzyme inhibitors, tons of acids, tons of gliadins, and then hurt himself horribly bad. But took a long time to do. You notice that? Took him over 20 years to do.
Yeah, it's an accumulation kind of thing, right? Of
All diseases.
cumulative damage.
Exactly. All disease is. That's what I tell people. It's like, of course you can get away with doing something. The human body is amazing. It's like a miraculous machine. It's designed to keep you healthy. So to shut it down and break it, it's really hard to do. But if you've done it, that means imagine how much damage you've done if you're young and you've hurt yourself that much. So that's where I come in and be like, look, what is the most natural diet for humans? Like, what do you go back to when you're sick? Well, everyone knows you got to eat more fruit. You got to get the vitamin C. You got to get the anti-inflammatories. You got to get the sugars into your body. You got to get the citric acid, the malic acid, the tartanic acid. These things are required by the human body because we have cell receptors for them. So we need them, and they are what make you very, very healthy. And so, what does a baby need? Think about what an infant needs. If you take away the little fruit from the little Gerber baby foods, there's not many other food groups left, right? It needs that for development. So of course they're required, but we forget that as we get older because our taste buds tell us something, and our rationalization tells us, well, it's okay, just this one time or just this meal. I'll give that up tomorrow, and we constantly bombard ourselves with our spoon every day. We're just digging our grave a little bit faster with foods that we rationalize and justify as being good, or we'll quit tomorrow. And then all of a sudden we're full of disease, and we go, what the hell happened? I can't believe this.
That's really well said. Those are great points. And when I was an unhealthy vegan, or vegetarian rather, I was going to this place called the Loving Hut. And I'm sure the people mean well. I'm not bashing that restaurant, but it's like a Southern California based, place or West Coast place. And, it's fried, and I believe it's microwaved, and it was so addicting. I'd get the fake meat or whatever, and it wasn't like Beyond or that, they weren't to that level yet. But, whenever you buy fried food, it's generally fried in vegetable oil, right? Canola or safflower or sunflower. I think that's, to me, the number one issue with most people, especially in the civilized world, is just the fried vegetable oil food. I think that's like the number one poisonous food.
Oh man, we're right on track then, because that is, not only is it completely glycated, but that's a major reason that most people have acne. They don't realize that when cooked oils go through your body, they go in the same transport region as other oils do. Every time you digest a fat or a lipid, it goes through your lymphatic system. That's how it's digested. So as it's going through your lymph has a great way of cleansing itself, and that's through the skin. So these cooked rancid oils are just trying to get out even faster than a normal lipid ever would. So it goes out of your skin, and then you start getting bad acne, and you don't attribute it to what you're eating because you're like, well, I'm eating organic, healthy food. What's going on? It's like, it's because you're frying these oils, and they're extremely toxic, and they're not really registered by the body as like, oh, I need that, because it's useless. It's a dead element. So your body's trying to get rid of it, and it's the best way for it to do it is through your biggest organ, your skin. So we're in agreement, man. I am not a fan of cooked oil ever at all.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's funny. A friend last night posted. I don't know. I think you're familiar with Ben Greenfield. He's like big in the biohacking community. He's actually like a couple hours from me. And they posted a podcast from last year where he was talking about rancid oils, and he actually talked about iron and polyunsaturated fats like fish oils in the same sentence, and he didn't use the word lipofuscin, but it's funny, like people are starting to get it in the health community, but I don't think they understand. They always just say don't consume rancid oils. But it's like, guys, our body is tropical. You're putting an oil that has, 6 double bonds, 22 carbon length in a tropical body. Who cares if it's rancid or not? That's not the issue. You're putting that fish oil or algae oil in your body. That's the issue, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, what do you expect to do? I mean, take your body temperature sometime and look how hot it is, and then test a fish sometime, and you'll see why those oils go rancid really, really quickly with heat. So you got to look at things sometimes really simplistically, and a lot of people forget because, like you said, they keep jumping to scientific studies. It's like, whoa, you don't need all that. You can test these things by yourself.
Yeah, I like Adam Bergstrom, and someone asked him on Facebook, they were like, when do you recommend taking cod liver oil? And he's like, when you're 5,000 feet under the water, that's a good time to take it. Just you're under pressure. And
I like that. That's a good one. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, and actually, while we're on him, I pulled up a quote because we were talking about phytates before, and he had this great post. He's like, best supplement source, the dictionary. Call it phytate and it's bad for you. Rename it inositol, IP6, and it's good enough for you to be sold at Whole Foods. Call it myo-inositol hexakeys phosphate, and it's even better for you. He said phytate is priced by the syllable, not by the milligram. It's interesting though, right? I mean, if we take extracts of these poisons, people use them as like cancer therapies and stuff.
Yeah, IP6 is a really popular one for anti-cancer. It's usually found in really high source in rice bran solubles, and that's why they used to sell it for like $5,000 a pound for a while there, because people were buying it for cancer, and it's something that you can buy now for like $20 a pound. So,
wow, that's interesting. And going back, yeah, I was raised with eczema and acne. You brought up skin conditions, and that's really the main reason why I got into health. Is just I was tired of having pimples, and I was tired of being tired all the time, and I just felt like I was in a fog. And green vegetable juicing definitely did something. It definitely shifted something. And like you said earlier in this interview, it might have just been me cutting out all the garbage, right, and the soy and stuff. But that was back in, I think, 2010, and light bulbs started to go off. And then over the last 9 years now, I've actually, or I guess 10 years now, I made a lot of progress, specifically with my skin. But I found like the vegetable oils, the PUFAs, I call them, those were the biggest issue that were causing my acne. So I'm taking vitamin E daily, and I notice a huge difference. And just doing red light therapy daily, I notice a huge difference in my skin.
That's good. Yeah, vitamin E is great for the skin, even topically. Matter of fact, you can brush your teeth with it, so it's really good. It binds to a lot. It's a good bonder. So I don't think people really look too much into it because it's been on the health food shelf for so long, and people just kind of overlook it. It's a cheap thing. People oftentimes associate cheap with not being very good. That's another horrible problem and another whole topic. But a lot of the times, some of the cheapest stuff out there is still incredible for you. Matter of fact, some of the best herbs that I like, I still get really cheap because nobody looks at them, like hawthorn berry. Nobody buys that stuff. It's incredibly good. I shouldn't care, right? I'm getting it cheap, but I just wish more people knew about it because it's one of those things that's very beneficial for people, everybody.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a really good point about the cheap supplements. And my mom, she told me back in, I think it was the 70s, she remembers when vitamin E used to be big, and then the fish oil industry came in. And this has happened so often with the health industry, right? Like they come in and there's just this battle, right? Whether it's like the sugar industry versus dairy or whatever it is, right?
Oh yeah, they'll push things out of the way so quick. It's unbelievable.
What are your thoughts on fiber? Because I've been hearing this from a lot of, like I told you, I'm going to have some recovering vegans on after you, and anti-vegans, whatever. They're doing like heavy animal-based diets now, and fiber is getting a really bad rap right now. And I think Ray P talks about how excess fiber, like a lot of it, can feed endotoxin, the lipopolysaccharide, and that can proliferate. But there are people saying like it's not a required nutrient, like we don't need it for peristalsis. I think that was an exact quote from Sean Baker.
Well, peristalsis is going to work based on potassium and some other elements as well. Remember, it works with vitamin C, it works with potassium. There's things that cause peristalsis besides just fiber. Fiber is just one of those things to help push things through, kind of like a broom. If you were just to consume nothing but fiber, like in the form of psyllium husk, it's going to go through you like a broom. Really harsh, really hard to do. You're going to need excess peristalsis to do it. So I usually recommend people to say even orange juice. I mean, obviously a bad choice, but still, you need something to help that extra peristalsis to kind of get through the body. So usually there's so many different forms of fiber. Everybody just goes, well, it's just soluble and insoluble. Really? Well, I tell you what, The next time you're slamming your corn and your kale, look in the toilet and watch how much of that actually went through you. That's an indigestible form of fiber because it's also, you're processing cellulose along with it. So there are different types of fiber and how they interact with the body. It's like saying a calorie is always a calorie. Well, yes and no. The calorie in an apple is not the same type of calorie in a piece of bread or in a steak. They are completely digested at different rates. Bodybuilders know this. That's why there's foods that keep them anabolic and catabolic. So the most simplistic way of looking at a calorie is what most people do. They just go, well, what's high in calories? I'll avoid that. But that's the problem that we have in the health field. Everybody looks at things very black and white. Oh, well, as long as it's plant-based, it's good for you. That's insane. What are you talking about? That's the reason vegans fail all the time, because they don't give a shit about their diet. As long as it's not causing a problem with an animal, they're gung-ho about it, right? So they're slamming Oreos because Oreos are vegan, and then drinking a beer. And they're like, look, I'm vegan. And then their health crashes and they go, the vegan diet sucked. What? That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So vegans don't care about their health, for one. That's the last thing they care about. I would say the vegan community is probably only, 1% of the entire population in the United States, and probably only about 1% of them think about health first. So it's a very small population. And then the vegans get mad and say, no, you're plant-based. Don't call yourself a vegan, right? So they even alienate themselves even more by doing that. It's kind of like why I don't like the label. So getting back to fiber, what's going on is they mess themselves up by constantly putting in this trash form of fiber that's wrecking their colon, and it's going through, and it's a very abrasive type of fiber. It's not very soothing going on. And then they're slamming, like, it's not like acacia fiber where it's just water soluble or something either. I mean, it's this very viscous. It's like eating grass. It's all insoluble and it's very rough. That's what's causing the people the problem. Is a huge problem, because my fiber content is obviously very high, because one of my staples is mature coconut. So I'm consuming lots of fiber and I don't notice a problem, and never really have. I don't run to the bathroom 3 times a day. That's insane. So even though my fiber content is very high, I would not attribute high fiber being an issue, because I've never had an issue with it. And my fiber content is extremely high compared to the average American diet. But it's not something that I've ever really gone, oh, I need to get my fiber today either. So it's not the extreme of either world.
That's really interesting. I've done so many wild experiments just because, that's brought me back to balance and not restricting any macronutrient. But when I cut out, I think it was early last year, I was eating almost no fiber except for a raw carrot a day. And sometimes I would even take weeks off of that. And I developed pretty severe chronic diarrhea. and then I just had the intuition, I should increase my fiber. And within like a day, my stool was back to normal and it was bulky. So I get messages from like carnivore people about that all the time. Like, Matt, I have diarrhea. What do you recommend? I'm like, eat a raw carrot. It'll help lower your estrogen, lower your serotonin, and bind to endotoxin. Carry that out. It has a lot of benefits. So.
Nice. Super simple too. You see that?
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah, but no fiber for a really long time. I mean, then you're relying continuously only on peristalsis. And guess what? Pure carnivore diet right now is very popular. It's gone past the paleo, and it's lacking all fiber, all vitamin C. It's very low in magnesium and very low in potassium. And guess what? All of those elements are what make your body go through peristalsis and relax. So not a very good combo.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think I saw a carnivore video debunking scurvy. It was by my friend Tristan. I had him on the podcast, and he cited some study. Maybe I could send it to you. It was a study from, I think, the 1920s or 30s, where 2 guys went on a carnivore diet, and their vitamin C it either went up or stayed the same. Like, they didn't get scurvy. And this was over like, I think 10 years or more. So,
well, were they eating the intestines and the liver and the things where vitamin E is actually stored because it's still in the animal's intestine? Or are they eating muscle? See, because back then they ate organ meats. Now we eat the muscle tissue that's ground up with the fat. We eat a very different meats than they did in the 20s.
That's a really good point. And I was curious, what like the potato fiber, since I've been eating a lot of like russet white potatoes, that's resistant starch. Is that soluble or insoluble, or?
The resistant starch is actually an insoluble form, but it's converted into resistant starch when that is cooled down. So remember that. That's when you take it and you throw it in the refrigerator for a little while.
Interesting. Yeah, because I got a lot of questions in the Q&A that we'll go into in a little bit. Like, you can't do fruitarian, in the north, right, where it's snowing like here. And I mean, my strategy for still getting carbs in is potatoes and raw goat's milk and honey, and I'm thriving on those. So.
Perfect. Well, remember, we make amylase in our mouth, which is a salvatory enzyme used to break down starch into sugars. So of course we can eat it. You know what I mean? Root vegetables are a good source for you. So I don't say give those up. They're going to keep you warm. They're going to supply you with those sugars that your brain and gut completely require. They're the first aid in digestion for good bacteria in your gut. So don't worry about it. Resistant starch is very good.
I love it. And I think I'm a big fan of Dr. Raymond Peetz, and he's been writing articles since like the 60s, decades really. And he popularized carb consumption, even like concentrated forms of sugar like sucrose, because he cites studies where like William Budd and Priori were using I think it was 8 ounces of white table sugar to reverse diabetes. And he basically found that people were losing sugar in their urine, diabetics. And so they're just, rational thought was, well, let's put more sugar in the system. And they found that just adding more sugar to that system, the type 2 diabetes balanced out. Probably because of the stress reduction effect. So.
Oh yeah, check this out. And people probably haven't heard of this, but it's the Kempner diet. He invented what's called the Rice diet. He didn't name it after himself, but at the beginning he did. And what he did is he took a bunch of these people and he put them on nothing but rice. He was trying to see how low protein he could get them. And after about 3 weeks, they came back and they were extremely healthy, but they weren't lower in amino acids whatsoever. And he was trying, back then people didn't really work out. This is quite a while ago. So he was testing their urine for positive and negative nitrogen balance, and he was trying to figure out, maybe I can lower their protein content even more. So he doused their rice with 50% sugar to lower the protein content in half. So just imagine this. Now you got a bowl of white rice, and every day you have to dump sugar all over it. And their health went up. They got their vision back, their kidneys restored. He wrote a whole book on it called The Rice Diet. He cured everybody with white rice and table sugar.
I definitely have to look into that. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So incredible stuff. Matter of fact, one woman she was almost completely blind, and she wasn't able to read the instructions. She actually thought that it read, "Come back in 3 months." And when she did, he got even more popular, because guess what? Her reading glasses were gone, and almost all of her health ailments were completely gone.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, I'm looking it up. Walter Kempner. Oh, of course, Dr. McDougall has a whole article on him because he's a big fan of rice and potatoes.
Oh, there you go. Well, good.
Rice
now
diet.
you can read some more about him.
Yeah, I can definitely link this, founder of the Rice Diet. This looks like a good article, even though it's McDougall, which is kind of going downhill from what I've seen in videos. But yeah, people get so triggered when I add white sugar to my goat's milk, and they don't understand. I mean, it's just sucrose, right? It's a chemical extract. It's a compound. It's not, the reason why I don't do, brown sugar or regular, brown cane sugar is I don't know what minerals are in there, right? I mean, to me, I'd rather just get the pure form. So.
Right, exactly. Matter of fact, let's say that you were to use an example of a mineral-rich source, and you go to sugarcane, and you're like, well, I really like sugarcane, but remember, sugarcane is a grass. What do grasses do? Grasses pull almost every known element out of the ground and into itself. So if you're obtaining it from a land that's really polluted or toxic or has heavy metals or any type, let's say jets fly over it, then it's going to be full of jet fuel. That's just the way that those plants are. They'd have no way of filtering them out because it's not a fruit, it's an actual grass, right? You're eating a grass. So you would get more metals in it from that form. So therefore you would have to supplement your your minerals in a different way, like you get it from shilajit, for example, or bee pollen. So that would be where you get it from. So I can see why you're doing it, because insulin converts that natural energy from the form into fats. So there's not much to worry about.
Yeah, and it's just, I find a lot of the sugar hate, and it just blows my mind on Instagram. I'll just see people so neurotic on the ketogenic diet, and they're getting sick every couple weeks, and I can just tell they're stressed. And they just think sugar is a poison. And you have people like, I think he's a quack, Dr. Mark Hyman, and just these big doctors, right? Maybe Dr. Oz, and just all these memes about sugar being inflammatory. And we've just been programmed to think like sugar causes inflammation, sugar causes stress, but it's the opposite. Sugar is anti-inflammatory, right? Sugar is anti-stress.
Well, think about bodybuilders completely use simple sugars or simple carbohydrates to spike insulin after working out to induce muscle growth, to feed their muscle. So, you know what I mean? There's times when you want a lower glycemic food, and there's times when you want simple sugars. I mean, that's very, very simplistic, but that's the way it is. But people really worry about sugar because they need to in America. They shouldn't be eating sugar. We should. We're in the health community. We know when our body mass index flies up above what it should be, that we probably shouldn't be having sugar added to our foods. We need to reduce it then. So they have this complex in their mind where everybody's unhealthy and they need to avoid sugar. But that's not the case. Some of us are professional athletes. Some of us can get away with actual sugar in our food and not have a diabetic insulin spike. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I tell a lot of people, because I get messages, Matt, I don't feel good from sugar, and I just say it's the PUFAs, it's the unsaturated fats, specifically DHA, EPA, and ALA, because they're so highly unsaturated, that cause the insulin resistance. Because it's not sugar that causes insulin resistance; it's unsaturated fats.
Yeah. So. Good luck explaining all that in a text message.
Exactly.
You need time to explain these things to people. You know what I mean? It takes time to break things down. You got to tell people, look, neurons use twice as much energy as any other cell in the body. They mostly run exclusively on glucose. And because neurons ain't able to store glucose as glycogen or as any other cell in the body, they must receive glucose at a constant supply. Think about it, constantly. That glucose must be received in the bloodstream at a 24-hour day dose all the time. That's why the body even makes it. So if you aren't giving your body glucose, your body has to start producing more of it. That's what happens on a ketogenic diet. Your body's still producing sugar, so you're never in full glucose, a ketogenic style. Even while you're sleeping, your body's making sugar. That's why when those people say, oh, I'm going to starve cancer out. No, you're not. It's impossible. You can't do that, first of all. But anyway, that's glucose for 86 billion neurons that you need. That's more glucose that could amount to all the sugar that you could possibly want, like a meal. So you can sit down and eat all the strawberries that you want. It's going to be very beneficial for your system. So when people go, oh, fruit's not very good for you, I don't know what they're talking about. I just really don't. What are they afraid of? They're actually afraid of sugar. They're afraid of sugar because what propaganda has indoctrinated them to believe that sugar is so bad for you, and fruits have sugar, therefore fruits are bad for me. Well, that's not necessarily true. And the only reason that it's partially true is because we have such hybridized, worthless foods on the grocery store shelves today that you do have to be careful on some of the fruits that you buy, because they will mess up your teeth. They can mess up your health a little bit because they don't exist in nature. They exist only in the grocery store. So there's a little bit of worry about what you want to do if you want to be a fruitarian, but you shouldn't be worried about fruit in general. That's just crazy.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I think that's some of the questions we have about teeth. Before we jump in, no, that was great. Before we jump into the Q&A, I just wanted to get your thoughts on systemic enzymes, because I have like a nattokinase and a serrapeptase blend, like a really high potency. And I mean, that's something that could help everybody, right? To dissolve the fibrosis that's caused by the PUFAs and all these things.
I would say that the average person doesn't really know what they are because there's so much in regard to digestive enzymes. People think that, oh, your raw food is for the digestive enzymes, and that is true, but the metabolic enzymes are far more important because they are what break down at a very young age in our life. See, you're always going to be producing amylase in your saliva until you're very, very old, and then you'll notice you don't have much saliva anymore. So we produce the digestive enzyme part pretty good, but metabolically we don't. At about age 27, they found that that's when it starts to plummet and go downhill fairly fast. So we need these things for not only just anti-inflammatory aspects, we need them for almost every metabolic process in the body. That's why they're called metabolic enzymes. So everything that's going on, from how well your brain functions to how much memory you have to how fast twitch your muscles are going to be, these are metabolic processes that are enhanced by metabolic enzymes. So you can obtain them like from your sources, and they are activated in the body by not having any other foods around usually. So I tell people to take them on an empty stomach, and they regenerate the body. They bring back the youth that you usually lose so you can recover faster. I tell people that are going under surgery, if you can only take one thing, what would it be? It'd be metabolic enzymes. So yes, I'm an absolute huge fan of them.
I love it. That's super cool. Yeah, and I think we connect a lot on the enzyme thing because those are so overlooked and underappreciated. Like I take my digestive enzymes with every meal, and I mean people have this misconception like you take enzymes, your body's going to stop making them. That's not how it works, right?
No, of course not. That's not true at all. Matter of fact, you can take as much amylase as you possibly want. It's just going to help even more. Think about when you pour honey on top of oatmeal. Honey is one of the highest natural sources of amylase in the world. You can add it to a warm bowl of honey, and you can watch the honey actually dissolve the oats in front of your very eyes. That's how much it helps you digest that food. Are you going to stop producing amylase in your saliva because of that? Of course not. It's just going to be using less of the enzymes that you naturally have and have to make. So it's a beneficial. It's added. It's a good thing.
That's awesome. Well, let's jump into the Q&A because we have quite a few questions, and I'm sure we'll spin off into some discussions from them.
Okay. Yeah.
Definitely had some trolls, but I'll probably just skip those unless you want me to read them.
Save them for last. Then you don't dedicate time for them. But yeah.
Where do you get your B12 and choline?
I guess we'll jump right into the B12 first. The choline is just something that you can obtain from some legumes. I don't eat very many, so I would say if I obtained any, it would probably come from maybe some molasses that I might add to a food, or maybe some mesquite and carob. So I don't really worry about it. B12, again, I don't worry about it. I've never supplemented it. I'm not going to start.
You don't inject it?
What's that?
You don't inject it like Durian Rider?
Yeah, I've never wrecked my intrinsic factors, so I don't think I have to really worry. Okay, don't get me started. Oh man, I went off on that. B12 you have to worry about when you're eating such a vast array of grains and all these other things that have phytates, which actually leach that element out of your body, that you're not going to absorb it into your body. It's just a cobalt element. So if it's in the soil, it's in the food. I eat so many coconuts and drink so much water that they probably naturally have higher amounts of B12 in it because of the fact that it's in the ground and it's going to be in the plant. So therefore, I would naturally eat cobalamin, and then that cobalamin converts into B12 in the body because that's how it's actually done, and that's how animals do it. That's why, like, a cow eats nothing but grass, which has probably, no B12 in it, they're saying? Of course it does, right? Because they're getting it. And then when they don't eat grass, guess what? They need B12 injections because they're not getting any in the diet. That's how humans get their B12, from the meat, because it's being injected in the cow. I bypass all that. Matt Blackburn here gets his from Shilajit. So if I had a good source of that's where mine would come. And my levels are completely normal on my blood tests, and I don't supplement at all. So obviously I have a pretty good source of natural foods that are coming into my diet. And so I don't worry about it. It's just not even on my radar because every time I've done a blood test, it's good. So I just ignore it even further, right? There's no reason to investigate any further if the numbers are perfect. So,
isn't there some in royal jelly or bee pollen, B12?
There is, actually. Bee pollen's much higher than royal jelly, I think. But that also depends on the floral state because, remember, pollen is just a conglomeration of flower pollens. That's all it is. And then the bee decided to wrap those pollens in an encasement capsule to protect it from the elements and then carry it home. So that's kind of all they've really done. So there isn't really anything from the bee that's making it have B12. It's actually already from flower pollens. So there it is.
Interesting. This is an interesting one. What are the discomforts, if any, that come from being fruitarian? I guess he's asking, like, are there any issues being fruitarian? I don't know.
It's kind of antisocial. If I go to the Cheesecake Factory with my family, I have to get the Thai lettuce wraps and substitute the chicken for avocado, for example. So I got like little stupid lettuce wraps that I have to wrap with avocado. I mean, it's just kind of boring, you know what I mean? But it's okay because I'm not used to really going out to eat anyway. But I would say that it's a little bit antisocial. It would be much easier if I was just vegan because you can go anywhere and everything's easily substituted nowadays. And half the things in restaurants are probably vegan anyway. So vegan would be very, very, very simple. But fruit, now you're into your own realm, right? You go to the dessert menu and you say, can I get the bowl of strawberries without the whipped cream? It's kind of ridiculous. I would say the preparation time also for food is a little bit harder for me because I do coconuts. So usually what I'll do is I'll go to the store and I'll load up on them and I'll come home and just slam like 15 of them open at the same time. And I will take them and I'll cut them into slices and I'll throw them in their freezer. That way I don't have to food prep, or I won't have to make food every single day for myself because I'm extremely lazy. Otherwise I would, each day I'd have to go open a coconut. I'd have to blend and make a smoothie. I mean, everybody spends time in their kitchen making and cooking food anyway. Mine isn't that way. Mine is more like dealing with opening fruit. So though it's faster, it's still obnoxious to me because I'm such a lazy person in that area. I'd rather just be working out or doing something.
Awesome. I think I have a bunch of dental questions. I kind of lumped a couple together. What does he do for dental maintenance? You're an expert on that. They said, my teeth got wrecked on fruitarian. Another person says, have your teeth gotten translucent yet? Mine did when I went raw.
Oh my. Well, no, definitely not ever. But then again, I never trusted the full raw version, where you need to eat the variety. I never believed in a balanced diet, as you can say. I've just never trusted it. I never believed it. So I never incorporated those foods that are really imbalancing. So I never really had things that are going to be leaching elements from my body, right? I never did grain. I never did anything with like phytates or enzyme inhibitors or any of these things. And if I ever consumed nuts and seeds, they were soaked and sprouted and way first. So I didn't really do citrus. Citrus is how you ruin your teeth. Lots of citrus, leaving dates and really high sugary foods on the teeth. I would say that a lot of the bananas, constant banana flow, that'll wreck your teeth. There are a lot of fruits modern day that actually wreck your teeth. Matter of fact, there's a zoo right now that banned fruit from fruitarian animals. Imagine that. You're a frugivore and you can't eat your natural diet because the food that sold at the grocery store rotted their teeth out. That's how bad these modern day fruits are. I am an heirloomist. I like to obtain my foods in their most heirloom state possible, and I always eat them when they're ripe and ready to go. When you eat unripe fruits, it'll rot your teeth out. It'll destroy them. And guess what you buy at the grocery store? You bought picked early, unripe fruit that's usually sprayed to ripen quicker, or that sits on the grocery store shelf next to some citric acid so it can be immaturely ripened. So what's going on is we're doing a whole bunch of different mix and varieties of things that are inhibiting our health, and we just don't know it. We don't see it, so it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. So I made a lot of good decisions earlier on, kind of by fluke because I didn't really know, and it wasn't intuition. Don't get me wrong either. I just lucked out, and I'm in the desert, so when I wanted food and I wanted to walk into the canyons to get it, you can't just pull off unripe fruit. It's disgusting and it's not good for you. So I didn't eat it at that stage. So I got really lucky. I had everything at the right stage and it was wild. So I never messed up my teeth at all. The only tooth I'm missing is one that got kicked out of my face.
That's all. Did Durian Rider replace all of his teeth? And that's from the bananas, right? That were probably unripe.
Yes, yeah. Freely and Durian Rider have both lost all their teeth. They've ruined their eyesight. He's wearing a toupee. He's messed up his B12. He has no intrinsic factor left, so he has to inject it. He has no production of natural testosterone anymore, so he has to inject TST. He's just a wreck. What a horrible example of a health guru. Somebody that's promoting a diet that they've always failed on. Like literally, remember when he was all about just raw food? He failed at that. Then Raw Till 4, failed at that. Then he came out with another program, failed at that. It's just failure after failure after failure, and then he's teaching others. It's like, you shouldn't listen to a failure, first of all. But the part of it is he hides the fact that he's a failure. So the next generation that comes along sees him and goes, well, he must know what he's doing. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about, and he looks like he's in good health. Well, he better look like he's in good health. Doesn't he ride a bike every single day of his life? Of course he better be in good shape. Matter of fact, the fact that he's like younger than me and has already crippled himself with health problems is the mere fact that he's not a good example of health. I mean, that's pathetic.
Yeah, that's well said. I think it's scary because we have all these diet gurus online, and people just see, they look good, they sound good, I'm going to go on their program, and it's that's a dangerous way to live.
It is. Just look them up, see how long they've been doing it, see what they actually do in life, see how good their memory is, ask them questions, challenge them to a sport. Say, hey, Durian Rider, let's arm wrestle. Matter of fact, let's have a memory competition. Anything. You pick it right now. Go ahead. I don't care. Name anything. Say alphabet backwards. I don't care what it is. You name something. We'll do it right now. Memory competition. I'll smoke him in every one of them. So whatever he's doing has completely failed him. But yet here he is promoting books, pushing, telling everybody what to keep doing. He's made more people sick than he's healed. And then what he does is he drives more people away from veganism than he does bring them in. So what kind of a quality is that, right? He's using it to say veganism this and veganism that. He doesn't do anything for animals. So obviously he's not a vegan. He cares about himself first. And then he's just trying to sell you something at all times. So he's really greedy. And these type of people ruin health for others, and they ruin, well, the most important thing of all is just health. I shouldn't even go on with the other things that it does, because it ruins the individual's health. And then you know how hard it is to get your health back if it's been broken? It's very hard.
Yeah, years.
Years gone. And some people have no rehabilitation. Matt Monarch might have screwed himself for life with what he did. He might have to have surgeries,
Yeah. Let's see. We have a ton of questions here. I'm just getting them ready.
Oh, sorry. I'll answer faster from.
That was really good. But you have a kind of a little product that you made that you applied to your teeth, right? Different things.
Oh yeah, teeth. My bad.
That's right. No, that's great.
I even brushed my teeth with honey for a long time because honey mixed with water creates hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide's a good cleaner for the teeth. But I didn't brush my teeth for a really long time. And now, I kind of make my own little mix. Like I use activated charcoal, and then that ruined my sink, so I don't advocate it.
If you're going to use that, like I have an activated charcoal toothpaste, I should just do that on the deck, right? And then wash and spit out from the deck outside or something.
Yeah, and for your audience, anything that has turmeric or activated charcoal will ruin your sink. It will stain it forever, and you'll never be able to clean it if it's got turmeric in it. It'll turn it yellow, and you'll never get it out. Charcoal will take some scrubbing, but you can get it out. But yeah, I definitely recommend some people try to, experiment and make some of your own. Take some vitamin E, squeeze it into a container, and then add a little bit of neem oil to it, and then put in some chaparral. You can even put like that and slam a mushroom in it, and then put the mushroom into your mouth like a mouth guard and rehabilitate and pull down some of your gums if they've been receding. There's all kinds of things you can do for your dental health. It's amazing. But see, we're into this like they got to look white. So what do? We scrub them, which is what? Abrasive. And what does that do? That ruins your gums, which are your health for your teeth. So we do a lot of things that are counterintuitive for being really good for dental health. And then, like you said, most people eat bad foods, and they mess your teeth up even more. So I would have to say for the people that are like, oh, but fruit's bad for your teeth. Yeah, remove the citrus. Go look at what these hybridized fruits are. Don't eat them young or before they're mature. There's lots of little variety. I try to give as much advice that I can, and also written form. So I guess I can give you some links to that free. I'll just give them all free. I'll give you my health book and my exercise form. And inside of it contains all kinds of just little tips and tricks like what to do.
I love it. That's super cool. Yeah, teeth I think it's so complex. For me, there's a big fat soluble vitamin component. Like when I was strict raw vegan, I was kind of living a Cassar lifestyle, liquidarian almost. I chipped my tooth just with a Myron glass bottle, and it was just a very light tap. And then I started taking K2 and eating cheese and doing raw goat's milk. And I think the raw goat's milk alone is very alkaline. It's a great source of calcium. So I think the alkalinity and the calcium. I mean, I've gone to bed without brushing my teeth and just swished with raw goat's milk, and I wake up and my mouth feels amazing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, your vitamin E will help too, because remember, lipids, fats pull nutrients into your body. So they're very, very required. And your teeth are no different. You're no different. They're like a living thing. So they can rehabilitate. So
that's awesome. Have you been tracking your fasting glucose levels?
Oh, I haven't done that for so long. No, when I was in like you, maybe, oh my gosh, when I 5 years in, I was all about it. Like, oh my gosh, I wonder what this is going to be like. I'm going to fast on nothing but grapes this month and see what's going on. But in your 30s, you're in perfect health, you're exercising every day, levels were fine. So I didn't know, I was just experimenting. Now there's still absolutely no need.
That's awesome.
I could for an audience, show my blood panel and fasting glucose and all that stuff, but it's a total waste of time for myself to do at this point.
Yeah.
I'm 20 years raw vegan, so.
Wow. Was it you or someone recommended everyone should get like an anabolic steroid test? Because, I used to do the Amon-Ra thing. I think he's on roids, right? And so, or growth hormone.
So, yeah, I definitely made a call out saying if you want to say that your diet's so awesome, then why don't you just post your blood panel and show like what's going on with your anabolic and catabolic hormones, because they're all going to be so elevated because they're juicing up, They're saying like, oh, I only eat once a day, 1,200 calories, and I don't do anything. It's like, okay, well, let's see your hormones real quick and see if that's true. I bet they're skyrocketed, just like Durian riders are.
That's interesting. Yeah, the test I always tell people to get first is the Full Monty Iron Panel, just to see their copper status. It shows RBC magnesium, which most people with an illness I would bet $1,000 they're low in RBC magnesium, and it just shows a bunch of markers that are really, really useful to take control of your health.
Awesome.
Fruits to avoid, if any. You kind of already mentioned like citrus, hybridized fruit, unripe fruit, right?
Well, it's nearly impossible to get away from hybridized food because that's probably 90% on the grocery store shelf. It's more like the genetically modified. And when you're looking at the hybridized food, think about like what the sugar content would be. So nowadays it's real easy with your phone. You can go to the store and say, what's the glycemic load of a food and what's the glycemic index of that food? And you'll see that like 2 bananas has the glycemic load of a pizza. So now you're talking about something that has extremely high insulin spiking, tons of sugars that are going to be pretty hard on the teeth because they're, again, bananas, as you can tell, they're sitting on the store shelf. They're unripe and they ripen right there in front of you. And so what they're doing is they're peeling up an unripe banana, they're putting it in their mouth. Everything's messed up because of that fruit. That's the most popular food in America is the banana. It's the number one food. So they're eating an unripe fruit for almost every single meal and they're slamming lots of them every single day. You're going to have some teeth problems. And then again, you got to watch and think about their sugar content when it's going pretty much into the mouth, like immediately. Think about the first process of digestion. Like people eat apples and their gums literally bleed. That's because of the high malic acid content, mostly, but it's a lot for the teeth and the gums to handle. So you got to be careful of those. You can't eat those all the time because if they're causing that kind of problem with just a couple bites into an apple, probably not good long term. Think of it really simplistically. Eat cherries. Cherries are very easy on your mouth, very easy on your gums, very easy in general on the system. Very good fruit. Recommend cherries, blueberries. Those things are great. You start to get into more abrasive stuff and things start to get worse.
I was worried at first because on the property here, I have 2 apple trees that, they're covered in snow now, but then I felt better because he said cherries have 2 cherry trees, and so that'll balance it out, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you have a variety of like a wild apple, a little tiny one, something that doesn't make your gums do that. You'll notice that wild apples never do that. When I was in Hawaii, the apples dissolve in your hand.
Wow.
They're totally different. They're like a rose apple. And over here, they're huge. They're bigger than your fist. And these are very high. They're concentrated sugars, and they do that on purpose. Matter of fact, they stop watering them even a couple weeks before they production time to concentrate the sugars. They do the same to grapes to make them more sugary, so they make better wine, and that the consumer can go to the grocery store and be like, "Oh, it tastes so good." So they hybridize the seed away from it, and then they make them concentrated on sugars. And now the general American public, with their sweet tooth, really craves them even more. Those things aren't very good for your teeth.
Wow. That's interesting. The next question is about deficiencies, and I think you made some videos on some of these, but they just listed off a bunch. Saturated fat and cholesterol deficiency. I know your thoughts on that already. Calcium deficiency, D3, K2, vitamin A, as retinol. I guess they're asking like, where are you getting those things? But we haven't talked about it, but you rely on biological transmutation quite a bit, right?
Yeah, and for the audience, that's taking an element and mutating it into another form. For example, take a cattle. They have a very good transmutative property in the fact that they eat nothing but grass, which has no calcium in it, and they produce nothing but calcium for their bones and for their milk for their young, and they have tons of extra calcium in their body. As where calcium for humans isn't very good. We naturally have it in our bones, but we have a very elemental form going in our body. So what I mean by that is that all foods, even fruits, have plenty of calcium. And then what happens is the parathyroid gland regulates calcium, and it puts as much as it needs to in the bloodstream. So it keeps it around 0 or 10. But that number shows up on a calcium channel score as 0. You don't want it more than 0, which is actually 10. But what happens is with most people is they consume too much calcium because everything's high calcium fortified. We need more calcium this, calcium that. And then all of a sudden we get too much calcium and it's bombarding the system. And then there's not enough other cofactors like magnesium to offset the extra calcium. So what happens is the calcium builds up, and then all of a sudden there's too much calcium in the blood. It's above 0. It even hits 1, and your doctor instantly starts to panic because there shouldn't be calcium in the blood. It's very detrimental. So the doctor gives you a warning. You need to cut back your calcium immediately. So you don't know what to do. So you stop taking your multivitamin. You stop taking your calcium supplements. That's good. But guess what? There's still tons of calcium in other foods. And now you've messed up your parathyroid gland. Now what's going to happen is your calcium is going to continue to go up. So now your doctor panics even more. So they put you on something called a calcium channel blocker. So it blocks all calcium being absorbed. Now that's a huge problem. Now you can't absorb calcium anymore. So now no matter what you eat, your calcium won't go up. So your number drops below 0 again, and they're excited. Unfortunately, guess what's going to happen? It's going to keep going down. It'll go below that. And they don't tell you that. So now you have bone degenerative diseases going on, and you're on a calcium channel blocker, which will never fix you. And calcium became your worst enemy, because calcium is what kills most of us. There's a book called The Calcium Bomb, and what happened is the doctor wanted to prove that calcium is what makes you hard of hearing. It's the reason that we have kidney stones, because they're made out of tricalcium phosphate. With cataracts over the eyes is calcium. Heart attacks are dislodged forms of calcium that go into your heart. Everything's calcium related. So we want to ignore calcium and not really worry about it very much. We want to be able to biologically transmutate it if the body needs it, for our bones, for example. But we already have bone. Bone is inside of us. So we're going to have tons of calcium already inside of us. And we're going to be getting a little bit every single day from our food. And that'll be the amount that we probably need, because calcium is abundant in everything. So the smartest thing to do would be like, okay, how do I get elements in there that would mitigate and help me produce more if I need it? That would be silica. So I'm a huge fan of silica, and you can get that in the forms of BioSil if you wanted to supplement it, especially if you're older in life. I recommend people that are older take strontium because it acts like calcium in the body, but it doesn't have the detrimental effects. And then on top of it, you can take silica as well, just to really pad yourself and buffer yourself even more. I'm also a fan of indium because a lot of people want to help with mineral absorption, but that's another topic. And then how I get saturated fat, I don't. My body would naturally make it, but I would say if I was worried about it, then my God, I eat coconut, right? Coconut is one of the highest forms of saturated fat of all plants. So my saturated fat would definitely be from coconut, but remember, saturated fat is made by the body. So my body will make plenty of saturated fat. You know that, Matt.
That was awesome. And I love the part on PTH, parathyroid hormone. Dr. Rapey talks a lot about that. And it's my understanding that how it works, the liver needs glycogen. So God made the liver store glycogen for a reason. The keto people need to understand that. And if the liver has glycogen, then the thyroid can function and parathyroid hormone will stay low. But it's really the carb restriction that raises PTH, right?
That's right. Matter of fact, it's I always tell people that have problems with their thyroid, even like if their T3 and T4 counts are out and they go, how do I fix my thyroid gland? You do it by fixing your liver. Did you know that? You fix your liver controls your T3 and your T4 counts. So the liver does so many things, it's incredible. They bypass it and the doctors go, well, let's look at that gland real quick. Oh, you're having a problem with your thyroid gland? Let's look at the thyroid. Well, why don't you look at what controls the thyroid? That's what I don't understand. They go to the symptom rather than, they're always looking at the symptom and then they go, oh, let's suppress it. That's the last thing. We don't need symptom suppression. We need a cure. So by looking at the thyroid, when the liver's controlling the thyroid, you're just symptom suppressing yet again. So like you said, I'm all about the liver health, all about it.
I love it. And I think a lot of the questions are, a lot of people's skepticism about fruitarian. I probably wouldn't do it again just because experientially, I feel better with gelatin and raw goat's milk. But someone asked bioavailable protein from fruit. And that's my main issue with the fruitarian diet. There's no amino acids there. But I mean, we've had conversations years ago about how raw honey is just pure protein. You've told me that, or bee pollen. There's so many other sources, but I guess is there bioavailable protein in fruit, or?
It depends. Berries have a little bit more concentrated form of it. I would say that I would get mine either from juices, like I would drink guava juice if I wanted a higher source, but I would say because I eat some dried fruits, I noticed that when you dry them, they're more anabolic, they stay in your stomach longer, and they make you feel more satiated. So if I want to go up in weight, I will eat lots of like dehydrated goji berries and blueberries, and they're going to have more of a concentrated source of amino acids in them. And that would be what you would call a source, but it's going to be very, very low, especially to the average person. The average person doesn't work out though, so there's no reason they even need to worry themselves really about amino acids too much. That's what that Walter Kempner was trying to do. He was trying to get somebody so low on amino acids that they could have a deficiency in something, and he really couldn't even get anybody to have it. So really, as long as glucose is or sugars concentrations are going to be high, you really shouldn't worry about your amino acid content unless your positive and negative nitrogen balance is out of whack. If you're a bodybuilder, that's an entirely different program. I don't think anybody listening right now is a professional bodybuilder. So if they are, yeah, you're going to want some protein in your diet. There's no doubt. You are going to get bigger with it. There is no doubt, because of muscle protein synthesis is absolutely required. And there are windows for that during the day when you want to optimize how many of those are coming in. And a fruit diet isn't for bodybuilding. It's not for that. That's not what it is. There's nothing natural about it, so why would I do it, right? It's not
it's
really
more it's for longevity, right? And we haven't really gotten into that, but that's your main focus. I mean, there is a difference, like Mercola said it, and I think other people, you can't be athletic and longevity at the same time, right? You have to choose one path.
Yes, which makes it really hard because I do both. And so I'm conflicted. You can say that. It's I go outside and I do something that's very counterintuitive for longevity. Do you think being hit in the head is good for you? Absolutely not. Do I get hit in the head? Yes, I do. So I don't tell people. I directly tell people what I do, though. I definitely say, look, I do things that I know I shouldn't do, but at least I'm doing a lot of good things at the same time. I don't go out and I smoke. I don't, yeah, that's another story. I don't go out and do really anything detrimental other than my sport. But a sport is very hard on the body, sometimes even more than harmful addictions. So you can definitely overdo things. So I try to mitigate as much damage as I've done because my sport is very, very violent. For those that aren't aware, I'm sure you probably all are. So you can see videos of myself on my channel. I just made a workout one that I posted, and I wanted it to be for people with injuries because I've accumulated a lot over the years. I started fighting in 1997. So as you would imagine, I've broken pretty much everything you can break in the human body, and I'm still ticking. I think almost all of my friends that I started with are completely done. They're all done, hurt, retired, and it's over for them. And here I am. I can still continue to do it. Now, should I? Probably not. So I mitigate it, training as much as I can. I train with just one person right now, and I weight train on the side. But when I weight train, I just do it for smart purposes. I even try to work out for longevity purposes as well. My weight training program isn't about as much as I could, like in the beginning, when you start lifting. So even that's been regimented and pushed back. Much smarter now.
I love it. I'm shoveling snow here because I'm in the dead of winter, and so I'm glad I don't have to work. I don't have any choice. I just have to work out on the land here, and so that's one way to do it too, to move the body. Because I think people that are city living, you can get away with being sedentary. Even if we're working in retail, if you're at a fast food joint, you're pretty much in a 10 square foot area, right? And you're mostly standing there. So, yeah. Or at a fast, In-N-Out or whatever, the drive-through.
For sure. Yeah. Most jobs require you to sit 8 hours a day. It's very unnatural, everything that we're doing to ourselves. It's really sad. We don't eat right. Then we don't live right. Then we don't work right. Then we don't rest right. I mean, it's just everything. Like you said, health is everything. Diet is one aspect. And it's one aspect that I just think that people should focus a little bit more on, because it's something that you do 3 times a day, and it's not just something outwardly going on. It's something that inwardly you're putting inside of your body. So it's a little bit more important than the others. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I like to think of things in terms of stress resilience. And to me, there's a protein component there with stress resilience, but mainly it's a carbohydrate component. And if someone's restricting sugar, the primary fuel of the body, especially the brain, glucose, then they're going to be stressed, right? And they're going to always have a fight or flight reaction to life's demands, even driving in traffic. And so I've noticed since I've upped my carbohydrates significantly that I have a lot more stress resilience. Like, things can happen and it won't wreck my immune system for a few days.
That's really good. And that's exactly what we want, especially especially even right now when everybody's sick. I mean, it's going around, whatever it is. It's up in Canada, it's down here. People are just sick everywhere. So.
Yeah. Next question. Do you ever get tired of eating just fruits? Doesn't your body crave more variety?
I'm really boring. I must have no taste buds or something. So I really don't care. I've never really cared though. So I might be the wrong person to ask. I would ask other fruitarians, because they make all these disgusting mukbangs where they're eating in front of the camera and their eyes are rolling back in their head. I don't even care what I eat, frankly. I'm just I guess I'm hungry. And I'm thinking, what should I slam that has the most calories so I can get it out of the way? That way, if I don't get hungry, I don't have to eat again. I really don't like food. I could care less. If I could have to get rid of one thing on earth, it would probably be eating. I think it's expensive. It's a waste of time. It's aggravating to do. I just don't like it. Matter of fact, when I'm training and it's 6 hours have gone by and I forgot to eat, I'm I feel fine.
I love it. Yeah, that's one of the things that was nice about being, intermittent fasting. I noticed I had a lot more time, but I do feel better eating more frequent.
Oh yeah, especially for thinner people. Thinner people should probably eat more often. You know what I mean? If you're thinking, well, what about the longevity aspects of it? You can implement things into your diet that can allow you to get and activate those processes and still allow you to eat. That's what I figured out in my time.
Mm-hmm. Like methionine and cysteine, balance or restriction, but I like the balance, right? So
yeah.
Someone asked, do you live in a winter season? Well, you said you live in a desert, but if so, how do you stock a sufficient amount of fruit? And then we got another winter question. It said, fruitarian, kind of a troll, but fruitarian would never work in Canada, northern USA. Changed my mind. So yeah, you have some videos on how the earth, you have videos on the Great Flood, and we're both Christian, right? And so the earth used to be completely different, right? And you you had one video where you scientifically proved for like an hour or two that the whole Earth used to be tropical, right? Even the North Pole.
Oh yeah, you can go to the North Pole right now and test it yourself. You can walk along and you can dig down and find ancient floral that belongs to a tropical region. You can find mammoths that have plants like fern in their stomach in the northern regions. Now, that's impossible because if you were to go to that region today, those plants can't grow there because the sun wouldn't never have hit that region. So what happened? That continent got slammed up there, and that was part of the tropical region of Pangaea when the continents were fitting together. So we had one continent that was all together, and it was all tropical. And everywhere you look on Earth, you can find those tropical plants even today. So yeah, there's physical proof that it was tropical everywhere on Earth. So if it was tropical, that's what we were designed to do. That's where we were placed, and that's what we are. And I mean, we can get away from that, but it's still like, I tell people, it's like taking a fish out of the water, out of the ocean, and putting it in an aquarium. What are you going to do to that fish? Are you going to change its diet? Is it now going to be able to eat city food? Can you throw in some pizza and is it going to thrive? You know, can you throw some oatmeal in the tank? Sure, it can eat the oatmeal and sure it can live. Is it going to live as long as it's supposed to, like in the ocean? Of course not, because you changed what it was designed to eat. So yeah, it can live, but it can't live like it's supposed to because it wasn't designed to do that, just like human beings. We're tropical. We're creatures that are designed to eat fruit. Like I said, we were designed to eat it because we have cell receptors that thrive only from it. You can't take away the citric acid and the malic acid and the tartaric acid and expect to thrive for a very long time because those cell receptors need those to thrive from health. Think about what vitamin C is. Vitamin C is a thin ring of ascorbic acid, like copper, and has all these vitamin K and vitamin P, and you take those elements away and people have a little synthetic form. So they're slamming synthetic vitamin C every single day, and they're going, oh, I'm getting my vitamin C. No, you're not. No, you're not. That's not natural at all. You're missing the other cofactors that go along with it for absorption. That's why you see bioavailable vitamin C, or vitamin C with bioflavonoids. They're trying to help your body absorb the vitamin C because they know their synthetic versions don't do anything. They just go through the blood like through analog, and they just go right in and right out through your urine. So they're not as good. So
it's funny you bring up vitamin C because I accidentally kind of started a fight on Facebook. I'm sure we've all done that. it was Adam Bergstrom. Him and Morley Robbins and others say that vitamin C is a complex, as you mentioned, of like J factors, P factors, vitamin J, vitamin P, copper, and ascorbic acid. And then there's this woman, Doris Lowe, that kind of comes from a Jack Kruse kind of quantum perspective, but she debugs him too. But she says, she ends every article, have you had your ascorbic acid today? And she says ascorbic acid is straight vitamin C. And that just doesn't make sense to me, right? I mean, if it's always complex with copper, if you take AA synthetic, you're not getting any copper in that, right? So it's not vitamin C.
That's right. And that's why when they overdose people on ascorbic acid and they pump tons of it into their bodies, guess what it does? It leaches bone from your body. Right? Wow. It has to get something. It has to get something from somewhere. Matter of fact, every single time that you notice that you're allowed, that you overdose on one element, it robs you of something else or it hinders your health. You never want to overdose on something without it having a repercussion of something else. So when people go, oh, you want to take absolutely hundreds of tons of megadose overdosing of that, well, be careful because that'll probably offset something else somewhere else. You got to be cautious. You got to look at what the cofactors are. You got to think about what the repercussion of that might be. Like a juggling game.
Well said. Yeah, there's all these connections. Like magnesium is antagonized by calcium and potassium. That's why I educate people on the fertilizer. I need to get an expert on with the NPK because I think that's so overlooked, and that's the main reason why vegetables are so poisonous for human beings right now is because they're just soaking up these rocks, and then meanwhile people are drinking 500 ppm water. And they're eating microscopic rocks, and they're bathing in tap water rocks, and so they're just getting fully calcified and depleting their magnesium daily.
Oh yeah, killing their kidneys too. Just like Look how many people have kidney stones. You know what I mean? They're constantly bombarding that high TDS water, and their kidneys are trying to filter it out, going, what are you thinking about, you know? And then everyone's like, you need mineral water. It's so good for you. It's like the exact opposite of what the general public needs to be hearing right now.
Yeah. There's a big water debate. I got into it in another podcast, but, you know, people say, oh, distilled's the best and all these different things. But, yeah, anyway, what are the benefits? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, just to answer that guy, if you live in Canada, I don't have to tell you, just eat all fruit. Just add more in, okay? Just add more of them in so that you can get these elements for the body. They have already done a study, and it was a huge study, and it was done over a massive amount of time because they really wanted to get everybody as much as they possibly could to eat healthy, right? They're like, let's see what's going on. Let's find out. So they did it in London. And they did it over 10 to 15 years. It's one of the longest studies ever. And what they found was that people that ate more servings of fruit were healthier than those that didn't. And it went all the way up to 9 to 10 servings before diminishing returns finally set in. So you can eat fruit all day long. That's how much of it you can literally eat and just get healthier from doing it. So whatever your normal, like let's say you love oatmeal, right? That's great. Throw some fruit in, add more. It's only going to make you healthier. Do I say just eat fruit? No, you don't have to. I want you to eat more of it so that you're eating less of something else. Because for every bite of fruit that you're going to put in your mouth is a bite of less of something else that you're going to put in your mouth. And that's going to help you. The London study concluded that the people that ate 10 servings of fruit ended up being 25% reduced risk of heart disease, 33% reduction risk of a stroke, 28% reduction of cardiovascular disease, 13% reproduce of cancer, and 31% reduction of premature death.
Wow.
Their conclusion after all those years, 15 years of studying, 65,000 people.
Wow. What do you think about my strategy of because I don't have, like if I go to the local health food store, which is quite a drive, but there's not high quality fruit there because we're in the dead of winter and I'm like close to Canada. So I'm just doing a lot of raw honey, which you can buy in bulk and store it, maple syrup, and raw goat's milk, because those are all great sources of sugar. Probably the honey is the best, right? And then maple syrup or something. But
yeah, for sure. I would say dried fruit. Just buy dehydrated fruit online, or that would be the best. You know, if you're ever out and you see wild blueberries or blackberries, rip it off the tree and go dry it or freeze it and make smoothies out of it. Max Planck Institute discovered that if you actually freeze fruit, you only lose about maximum 30% enzymes. So you're not losing a lot by freezing fruits. And if you don't like smoothies, because obviously it's winter and you don't want to freeze your ass off by eating frozen smoothies, then I just dehydrate them. I just, freeze dried is really good as well. And dehydrated is a little more expensive, freeze dried. But you can go to Z Natural Foods and they have a plethora of different dehydrated fruits that are super cheap. And you have fruit powders you can drizzle all over everything. It's a really good way to get some fruits in your diet. I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just bought, I love North American Urban Spice. I think they're a high integrity company. And they had a Elder C product, which was powdered, dehydrated, low temperature, dehydrated elderberries and camu berries. And ever since learning about copper and its effect on iron, I've just been obsessed with berries again. I think you saw me in my berrytarian phase a couple years ago, maybe 4 years ago, but yeah, elderberries and camu, those are incredible. I love that.
Camu is incredible. Tart, for anybody that's bought it, it's sour. Be ready.
Yeah, it's very What are the benefits of a fruitarian diet compared to carnivore diet? It's a pretty loaded question for you.
I would say if you were going to compare the two and want to feel the difference immediately, go run. Do that diet and go run somewhere. Watch the cardiovascular difference you gain from eating something like fruit as opposed to something that's building uric acid and purines in the body. And people that eat tons of meat have more uric acid, so their joints hurt them. And matter of fact, some of them may actually go to the point where they think it's bodybuilding doing, and they quit exercising because it just hurts too much. The reason why is because uric acid getting into the body, and if they can't get rid of the amount that you're consuming, then the exact opposite is true with fruit. It's removing those purines from the body. So you're actually going to gain stamina from doing it. So those things, it's about acid content. So meats have lots of, fruits have weak organic acids and meats do not. So there's a different form of acid. So those meats they tend to build more of a lactic acid in the muscle. So when you're exercising, you feel the burn faster, as where fruits remove that feature. So you don't feel that. So when you're doing cardio, you totally notice the difference. That's the one thing that I would say first, immediately the difference that you feel.
And does uric acid convert to ammonia? Like there's the urea cycle, which I think was the first metabolic cycle discovered.
Yep.
Because Adam Bergstrom, Ray Peat, different people, Kate Deering, talk about how potatoes have keto acids, and that'll actually soak up extra ammonia, and you'll make the 8 essential amino acids from that. So it's funny, like the meat and potatoes thing, potatoes do literally seem to balance out the meat.
Yeah, exactly. And which is really good. That's why I, for a while, I didn't know about it until I was reading more. I was like, you know what? I think people should be eating potatoes if they have parasites, because the parasites really release a lot of acids. So that's a really important aspect, because you got to protect your liver. You got to buffer the liver, and the liver has to take that stress of the ammonia. And so if you got higher amounts of ammonia, then you got to really deal with that, because you've heard of the Krebs cycle. That's where it gets implemented and messing that up a little bit.
That's interesting. This is a fun one. What is the breaking point in the evolutionary theory? What scientific principles are you using to come to your conclusions? Because I mentioned before, I said that you had a whole video debunking evolution. So I don't know if you could summarize that in a few minutes.
Sure. How about this? How about I do it for the entire audience in a really simplistic manner? We'll just take what's called p-value in science. P-value is what's called statistical probability. And what we're going to do is you can look at all the different denominations on Earth and all the different religions on Earth, because that's what I did. I didn't start with Christianity. It was like the last one that I found. But what I did is, when you're taking and you look at the validity of scripture, you can read them and you go, okay, well, if sheep herders wrote this down 5,000 years ago, then what are the odds that they lined up scientifically what we've just recently found in the world of science today? For example, the Bible describes that the universe had a beginning. It says God created everything in the beginning. Well, this is at a time when everyone back then believed that the universe was eternal, and that the stars were stationary in the sky and they didn't move, and everything existed the way that it had been forever. But the Bible said, no, there was a beginning. And today, guess what? Because of the logical reason of going back, it's called infinite regress, there has to be a beginning. So just logic dictates that there was a beginning, just like the Bible said. And then what we do is we go to the statistical odd. What are the probability that the scriptures mention that God stretched out the heavens? It says with his hands, he grabbed them and stretched them out. Now we have the shape of the universe today, and it's not round like we would think from an explosion. It's very stretched out. You can actually Google it and look at the image of the universe, and it's a stretched out look. Very unique, considering it mentioned it over 17 times. But here's the kicker. Evolution tells us that we evolved from primates in Africa. Specifically, it's what's called the L1 node. It's a haplogroup, and that all humans descended from them and spread around the world. Well, the Bible's very different. It says that man was created specifically in the Middle East and in the Fertile Crescent. Well, what do people look like who live there? Well, they have brown skin. Evolution says that man arose in deep Africa at the L1 node, which would have made them have black skin, just like all Africans. What does science tell us about skin colors? Well, skin color, or melanin, is governed by multiple genes, and genes come in 2 pairs. 2 from each parent are inherited, just like letters in the alphabet. Let's look at A and B right now. As genes code for large amounts of melanin, are capital letters A and B, as where lowercase a and b will represent low melanin in the skin, so pale white people. Therefore, black skin races can only carry capital letter genes, capital A, capital B, capital A, capital B. They can only ever produce more black skinned people, just like white people, which carry all recessive lowercase gene letters and can only ever produce low amounts of melanin children. So Adam and Eve had to have been brown-skinned people, therefore to be able to code all the different skin colors for the people that we see on the earth today. So even simple genetics proves the out of Africa theory is wrong, and proves that the biblical created heterozygosity model is true. So we know that's a fact. And then one of the largest genetic studies that was ever done recently by the Rockefeller University proved that all species, including human beings, have clear genetic boundaries and all of them arose at exactly the same time. What does that prove? That proves that Noah's flood happened recently and they can trace it back, and they proved it. Secular science has proven our model in multiple ways than one. Matter of fact, there was another study that was done by Dr. Elizabeth Bell. She's a geochemist at the University of California in Los Angeles. She actually found that Earth was meteorite clear, very temperate, and was, she as in her words, an Eden from the very beginning. She was just published and put in Wired magazine because of this discovery. So there's all kinds of proof. I'm not just coming with some woo-woo, I feel this and therefore it's true kind of thing. Oh no.
I love it. And just to clarify, there's like I think there's some like cult in South America right now called melanation. There's like these people that, Dr. Sebi disciples that think that more melanin is better and black is the superior race. And I think there's a whole bunch of people that are, believe that. And then, of course there's the opposite where there are white people that think they're superior. I don't think anyone's superior or less, than any other. But a lot of people are saying, like I got a message, or I saw a message on YouTube. I think it was on Kassar's video. This guy was like, people that have more melanin can go fruitarian and breatharian easier, saying they're like more advanced, whereas people with less melanin are like Neanderthals. You literally use that word, are like less evolved. So, yeah, you're not saying like white people are lesser, right?
No, when I'm talking about dominant and recessive genes, I'm talking about how they're expressed. So, for example, do people with blue eyes see less good than people with brown eyes? No, there's no difference whatsoever. But guess what? Blue eyes are recessive. That means if you have one parent with brown and one with blue, the odds of the child having blue eyes is recessive. It's not as high as brown. It doesn't mean that they're less evolved. So that person doesn't know what they're talking about. They're not a geneticist, right? So they're just kind of throwing something out there because they found a niche. It sounds impressive, dominant and recessive, so they just went with that because they don't know about heterozygosity or anything about real science. That's all.
Interesting. Yeah, the melanin thing's interesting because I think chaga mushroom contains some of it, and I know melanin is used in the pineal gland, but I think there's people that just get a little obsessive with that whole melanin idea, and it's fascinating. I don't know.
It is fascinating, but yeah, it's just skin color, man. There's nothing to it. They found that Neanderthal had genes that we no longer have, and some people today even have some of those genes, and they do better in life. So calling somebody a Neanderthal is a good thing because that means that they have some genes in them that are extremely powerful. Matter of fact, Neanderthal, you see the size of their brains, huge, way bigger than ours. You go back in time, brain size actually gets bigger. Brain size has been reducing in human beings as time goes on. That is not good, considering now we know the size of the brain correlates to intelligence. So,
generational retardation is shrinking to a walnut, right?
We're headed downhill. People think we're going up.
That's interesting. Was NPK fertilizer something taken into account before you transitioned to fruitarianism? That's more of a vegetable issue, right?
Yeah, that's a vegetable issue, but still, no, nothing was. I didn't jump in this because I cared about longevity. I cared about it enhancing my ability to hurt another person physically. So I was like, wait a minute. First of all, it made logical sense. I'm like, well, I love fruit. I don't love these other food groups. I don't salivate when I look at a tuna fish. I salivate at fruit. So it makes logical sense. And I love the taste of it. I just don't know if I would be able to, I guess, perform better. So I did it. I just did it. I didn't question it. I didn't like go home and open Google and start researching. No, I didn't care. I just started eating fruit because I thought it was great anyway. And it just happened to be exactly what I was looking for the sports performance. It was great.
That's awesome. What kind of diets have you tried before? None, right? You were just standard American and then switched.
Yeah. I was just standard. I never tried anything prior. I had wished that I did, because maybe a little bit, because it would have been fun to say like, oh, I'm going to go pure paleo before I jump into this. That way I have something to gauge myself on. But really, I don't deviate much. I just continue to stick to it because I really want to know, like, what are the long-term effects? If I fail, I will be on your radio show telling you what happened and saying, don't do this, right? Because that's what I'm about. I'm about health and longevity. So if this is garbage, people should know that it's garbage. Don't do this.
That's awesome. Well, I hope you succeed. I hope you succeed. I think you will. So.
I think most people that do the diet are doing it wrong. That's the biggest problem. I got to correct the people that are doing it. Have you seen Raw Bliss? What a mess.
Another deficiency question. How do you get true vitamin A retinol? And it's my understanding, I mean, beta carotene, the carotenoid converts, but you need thyroid function to do that, right? So you need carbs for that conversion.
Yes.
And probably some other things.
But I get plenty. Yeah, exactly. I rely on my body to do conversion for every single one of those things you're talking about. To make B12, I get cobalamin. To make to make retinol, I take carotenoids. So my body does the conversion. I don't take heme iron. I get my iron from plants. So I don't expect to get a lot of things. I expect my body to do a lot of these things. I don't care about the original source. I don't consume omega-3s to get omega-3s. You know what I mean? I make my body do these conversions. I rely on it to do it because it's like exercise. You know what I mean? I don't rely on my body to make muscle. I go out and I exercise, just like I make my body stay fit by constantly doing these conversions. I don't care if the conversion's weak because everything else about it is normal. I think that it's a natural process, so I let the body do this natural process. That's all.
Interesting. And you mentioned omega-3s. That's a fascinating one because I think that's a poison. Our body doesn't make DHA, so that tells me it's not a necessary nutrient for the human body.
Correct. It is not. No, I do not take omega-3s in any form. I don't think anybody would say that I have a bad memory. So I've never really done it. I've never bothered with. Matter of fact, I have an old video that you even reminded me of, where I'm up in the canyons and I'm talking about where did the Native Americans get their omega-3 fatty acids from? You look around, you don't see any. There's no plant source. There's no animal source. So are they omega-3 deficient? Are they going to die? Do the Native Americans have horrible brains? It doesn't make any sense. So if it doesn't make logical sense, then therefore you can conclude that it's not logical.
When was the last time you had meat? That was when you told me, right, earlier in the interview. You were eating that burger.
Yeah, so probably sometime around 2002.
Okay, cool. Does eating too much fruit and only fruit make you fruity?
I don't know. Nuts made me pretty nuts. I wish foods did that. That'd be funny. Then we'd have that answer to why people are gay. Super simple, wouldn't it be?
I love it. Why no raw dairy products?
Again, it's just one of those things that I don't. There's no goats. There's no cattle. There's nothing around here. I consume what I can obtain. And, if I walk down the street, I can find some dates. If I go outside, I can find some wild grapes, wild cherry. I can find carob. I can grab those things. I can't get a hold of that goat. That sucker runs up that mountain so quick. I've never had it. I mean, I'll be serious. I don't consume it because I don't have it. I don't need it. I have gone without it this long. Why start incorporating it? If I noticed that I had a problem, sure, I might need it for something. Matter of fact, there's one woman that cured a lot of forms of cancer by mixing goat milk with a form of German cottage cheese and flaxseed oil. And she mixed the two, and the lipids were really, really good at helping the cancer cells be destroyed. So that was really good. but like we're talking about, we're talking about something outside of the realm of why, for the reason that it's healing. It's like, sure, I would take chlorophyll from a plant if I felt that I needed to. If I needed to raise my coenzyme Q10 levels, sure, I'm going to take some chlorophyll, because when the sun interacts with the skin with chlorophyll, it makes CoQ10. It's just the way it is. So I would do it if I felt the requirement to do it, and I just don't. So.
Interesting. I know you have to dive at the teat. No, I'm just kidding. You occasionally strap those animals down. Yeah.
No rocks? You don't throw a rock at them? You don't distract them?
I might get some goats here. It's just, I mean, you almost have to have a family to do it, because I wouldn't be able to go out of state to a conference or something. I would have to hire someone to milk them twice a day. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's right. Because they build up and they hurt, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the... I mean, I've been bashed before. Like, I think if I could have my own droid that had a firewall virus protection built in, that wash my dishes and milk the goat, I would pay for that. I think that would be, as long as it can't be hacked and kill me. How much bee pollen are you consuming? So you mentioned before we started, like, something's killing the bees, right? Unfortunately, in Southern California, so you haven't been finding local bee products. But.
Yeah. I used to get all my honey and everything from this local cave up in the Tahquitz Canyon. There was like probably 5,000 bees, and it was one of the largest hives I've ever seen. It was a huge cave, and the bees nonstop flowed in and out of it constantly. And the last time I went there, they were all gone. Not even a trace of their existence, except for some honey that dripped down from their cave entrance. So it's completely gone. And so there went my source. But there was a question in there, right, about how much protein or when often to take it.
You know what would be interesting, really quick side note, I wonder, I mean, I guess this would be a lot of very expensive, probably a $3,000 investment, but get like a solar panel, a battery, and then hook it up to a Blue Shield device. Probably wouldn't take much power. It's a scalar generator that's a very big, I mean, it's made for homes. And if that was protected from the elements, that might help to bring them back, because you just give them an anchor electromagnetically to attach to, so they wouldn't get blasted. But I'm sure there's a chemical component, but it's probably mostly non-native electromagnetic fields. So.
Yeah. I don't know. How much does that thing weigh? They're way up in those mountains, man.
Yeah, that's...
I got to carry that pretty far.
I'll help you. No, I'll make a documentary.
Yeah.
The question was, how much bee pollen are you consuming? So you'd have to probably buy it online, right? If you got that.
Yeah, if I would tell the average person when to grab some bee pollen, start out very small, because it is an allergen, meaning it's flower pollen from everywhere. So you might have a slight allergen to, like, say, sagebrush, and you might not know it. So you don't want to just like take a couple tablespoons and swallow it. You're going that might give you a little inflammatory or scratch your throat up. So start small. But I would say every couple hours you can take a tablespoon, because it's found in the colon within just a couple hours. And I'm not talking about the bee pollen itself. I'm talking about the metabolites from it. So it's a really quick digesting element. It's not like a really large bond of amino acids like, say, casein. It's actually already broken down protein into amino acids. So it would be like taking something along the lines of an isolate, like a whey protein isolate or a soy isolate. So you're taking something that's already broken the bonds of or chains of protein into amino acids. So the next step is just enzymes, which are also very high in. So you're essentially taking an already digested supplement. So it's not like a protein where you can take it every 3 hours and have your body break it down. It'll be really, really quick. So you could get away with even taking it every hour, but then you're getting into something very expensive. And why would you need that much protein every hour unless you're powering through an exercise? Like if you're in a triathlon, perfect time. Absolutely great time to do it.
Or shoveling snow nonstop.
Yeah. More physical you are, sure, every hour, go ahead. But
and I've heard that you need to crack the cell wall like pine pollen. Is that true? Like freezing it or blending it?
No, the reason why is because chewing will do it. Remember, the outer capsulated source of pollen is cellulose, and it's a little bit of cellulose that the bee put on there from a little bit of honey or propolis that the bee makes. So they're encapsulating it, so the pollen doesn't fly out when they're moving, right? So if you were to take a little tiny knife and you were to cut it, you would see the pollen pour out of it. So The longer it sits in that capsulated form, the more moist it is, the fresher it's going to be. So you actually want to grab it, put it in the freezer immediately, and then that alone will break down that cellulose even further. But your mouth will break it all down. It's not very high in cellulose, you know what I mean? It's a very, very low cellulose content. The bees are just doing it for a storage capacity to travel with it. Pollen is the bee's main source of calories and nutrients. Honey is only made by bees that actually live in an area where the temperature drops below 50 degrees. If the temperature doesn't drop below 50, bees never make honey, ever.
Wow.
They only do it in time of absolute requirement. So think about that. You know, it's their backup food for winter.
That's interesting. I mean, that would make sense for humans then. It's humans' backup fruit for winter. I mean, or one of them.
Yep. Exactly. It is your caloric content. It does have vitamin C, regardless of what people say. It does have minerals, it does have vitamins, and it does have protein because it's the highest source in the world of what? Enzymes. Enzymes are what? Enzymes are the broken down amino acids, which amino acids are protein. So therefore, yes, it actually does.
That's awesome. I think we have like 6 or 8 more questions. Do you eat the seeds from fruits? I recently started eating seedless again. I used to hear it from gurus saying you eat seedless fruit, you'll become seedless, which doesn't really make sense logically.
Right. No, yeah. I'm not going to start eating seeds from an avocado. I'm not going to eat the seeds of a durian. I'm going to eat the seeds and fruits that are naturally easy to eat. A blackberry, a strawberry, a goji berry. Yeah, absolutely. But am I going to eat I would say that the most obscure one would probably be like the seeds of a papaya. I don't know. I don't like the spicy seeds, so I just don't eat them. Do I need to? No, but I'm not gonna eat the seeds of a date. I mean, it should be there's yes and no to that question, right? I mean, when I'm outside, I'm not going to eat the seeds of a cherry. The pit's high and it'll kill me. Will I eat it from a grape? Absolutely. It just really depends. I'm not going to eat it from a carob pod, and I'm not going to eat it from a mesquite pod. It's just they're all so different.
That's awesome. How much coconut meat do you consume?
I would say my goal is one mature coconut, not Thai young coconut. This is the mistake fruitarians make. They think Thai young coconut's the right coconut. It's not. I eat one mature coconut a day. That way I get 1,400 to 1,500 calories guaranteed in one meal just by eating that coconut. I try to do it all at once just so I can get it out of the way. And coconut actually stimulates appetite. So it actually makes me hungry so that I can continue eating another food group. So I really like Mamey Chapote, for example. It's a little kind of a starchier, low sugar fruit. I'm a big fan of that one. And then as the day goes on, I might want to be satiated more if needs be. So I might eat some avocado because it's more fatty and it's not a medium chain triglyceride, so it's metabolized differently than a carbohydrate would be. Even though the coconut is a fat, it's digested like a carbohydrate, but the lipids found in something like an avocado or acai are broken down really slow, so you're satiated more.
That's interesting. So 4 questions I'll just lump together because they're kind of a similar thing. What's the most nutrient-dense fruit? If you could only have one fruit, what would it be? If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be? Etc.
Okay. All right. Let me think. Nutrient dense. I'm going to have to go with the Chinese on this one. I'm going to have to go with the Lycium barbarum or the Lycium chinesis. The goji berry literally has every single amino acid. It's higher in lysine than it is methionine. It's the highest mineral concentration. It's got natural fats in it. It's a sesquiterpene, so it actually helps the body make human growth hormone. Nothing really does that. It's really good for the kidneys. It helps bring back eyesight. It's high in astaxanthin. I mean, it's just an incredible berry. Super
lutein, right?
Say again?
I think lutein.
Lutein, that's right, because it's a nightshade. It belongs to the nightshade family, but it's the original nightshade. So, matter of fact, it's so low in solanine that you can actually eat the leaf, the stems, and the root, and it won't affect you. Goji is one of the heirloom strains, so I'm a huge fan of it. It's in the longevity literature going back for thousands of years. Nothing really has the history that has, so I'm just a huge fan. As far as, I guess, picking a meal constantly, I would have to go with the boring mature coconut. The reason why is because It supplies you the water that you need. Giuliano drank nothing but coconut water for 14 years straight. It's incredible. So you can get the water you need. It's got the high amounts of copper in it.
I think he was doing magic mushrooms too, though.
Magic.
I heard him say that in an interview at his restaurant.
Yeah, he's a wild man. But I mean, props to anybody that can just like eat all that crazy food for that long. So that's pretty
Quite
cool.
a lifestyle. Yeah.
Very, very wild.
I would spin off into another dimension if I did psilocybin and coconut water for 14 years.
Oh man, well I think he is. So
yeah.
he is off in another realm right now.
I used to have his book. It was really trippy. I think there was a picture in there where he was like jumping in the air right when you open the book, his cookbook, or his uncooked book it was called, and he was wearing almost like women's clothes. It was interesting.
Yeah, he had pigtails,
Yeah.
long hair pigtails with roller skates on. Yeah, I know. He was crazy. But he's definitely, he's a wild one. But he's bi, so.
That makes sense. Maybe he's not. I mean, he's not eating a lot of fruit that I know of. So I don't know if that fruit making you fruity applies. But.
Oh, good point. Yeah, right. Good eyes. Good catch, man. I was just going to finish up. I'll just say the reason I would say coconut is because it really, even though it doesn't have vitamin A, even though it doesn't have vitamin C, I know I'm going to have to acquire something else, but coconut literally means all one needs to live. There's people that get stranded on deserted islands and they can live off nothing but coconut, and it keeps you going for longer than anything else on the island. There's people that have tried surviving on rafts where they drink, they filter out the ocean water through their shirts and they drink the fresh water from it, and they eat the fish that come up as when they can. And their health goes downhill quick. You get stranded on an island, you find the survivors that lived on coconut, they're completely fine.
Wow, so. That's fascinating. Let me see here. Do you have any health problems? Sleep good, energy all day?
Well, I'm up all night, but I mean, if I wasn't such a night owl, I would probably sleep. I wouldn't sleep till noon every day, but yeah, no, I've never really had any, I would say, issues. Like if Matt was over here today, we'd be training and grappling today. So no, I don't.
That's awesome. Yeah, we did that the last time we met up in California. That was fun. When I was renting the RV. What's the best way to wash produce? I've heard like baking soda, right, or vinegar.
Oh yeah, well that's one. I would say hydrogen peroxide would be first. Hydrogen peroxide, it gets a little more expensive, so some people reach more to the apple cider vinegars or the baking soda, but hydrogen peroxide really knocks out anything. I don't really that would probably be what you want to kill, because if you're doing it, you want to kill one thing. One thing is your enemy on produce: parasites and parasite eggs. That is your enemy. Don't worry about bacteria. I mean, bacteria, your gut can probably destroy some. You'll get some salmonella probably, but I'm just saying hydrogen peroxide will knock that out. Don't get the parasites, guys. Really watch for that. You want something strong enough to kill the parasites. Bacteria will die quick from apple cider vinegar and things like that, but you want to kill the parasites along with this salmonella and all the other things. So that's hydrogen peroxide.
Awesome. Yeah, I use a water ozonator, and not just a cheap Amazon one, because I don't think those are effective, but one from Canada, and I use that for my humidifier, to clean my humidifier, and so many things. I use that to wash my produce, especially berries, and I think it helps with chemtrail residue and all sorts of stuff. So.
Nice. There you go.
What are good fruits for the gut?
There's ones to avoid for the gut. Like, I'm not a fan of pears. Pears and apples are really hard on the gut, and in contrast to that, you would do really good with things like a cherry would be good. Durian is another really good one. Acai is really good. They're very, very subtle to the stomach lining. And think of things with acids as being more abrasive, like pineapple would be really hard. Type in ulcers, foods to avoid. Things that cause ulcers are the peppers. Those things are really hard on the gut. Avoid all of those because ulcers occur in the stomach. So anything that affects an ulcer will affect your stomach if it's sensitive. So I'm more of a fan of telling people get the soothing things. Matter of fact, if it's really sensitive and you want to coat it, a plantain is very good to consume right before you were to eat a meal even. I'm not a fan of bananas, right? And so plantain would be your best bet on that one, or heirloom bananas. They're your next best bet. Even a half a banana would be soothing to your gut.
Interesting. Capsaicin, did you mention peppers? Like you said, to avoid, because I noticed people are almost addicted to spicy food, right? And I think they have an anti-parasitic effect, but if you consume them chronically, like I used to drink lemon ginger blast, that's a Lou Corona's creation with the habanero pepper. Ooh, and I noticed it was a little harsh.
Yeah, I tell people to avoid those. They're too harsh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm telling fruitarians to avoid it. Big difference between the general public. You know what I mean? The average person can get away with it, but a fruitarian, you got to be a little bit more cautious on what you're doing. I don't expect anybody to listen to this podcast and go, I'm going fruitarian. So I'm just saying that in our realm, there are people like us. So if they're listening, if they actually want success, then they're going to have to follow kind of a protocol. You know, you can't just expect to just go to the grocery store, buy fruit, and be a fruitarian. It's not going to work. Sorry.
Yeah. Do you think there are benefits to peppers in small amounts, like hot peppers or chili peppers or bell peppers?
Yeah, they're very high in silica. Silica is a very, very good element for the body. Matter of fact, they help pass the blood-brain barrier. Remember, not a lot of things do. Not a lot of things. There's alcohol, there's solvents like DMSO, there's lipids like lecithin that can pass the blood-brain barrier. There's things that can be used like medicine, even alcohol, right? So certain things can be used to pass the blood-brain barrier. Caffeine is the most popular, but peppers are very good at it. Very, very good.
Yeah.
A very good source, which most people forget about, is that it's really high in NAD. So NAD is a really good one.
That's a big buzzword right now in the health community.
Yeah, niacinamide, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a big buzzword. But get this, matter of fact, here's for your audience. This is a brand new, they figured this out yesterday. So check this out. I keep up to date on everything, right? They found that resveratrol, it can't activate sirtuins unless the cell has ample amounts of NAD. So all those people slamming resveratrol every day, they're not even absorbing it, and it's not even doing its job. So because, resveratrol actually has some counterindications for taking it. So you're taking it to activate sirtuins, and now you're having a side effect by it not actually turning on sirtuins. So now you're only getting the side effect. Isn't that amazing? So you have to have NAD if you want to activate resveratrol.
That's interesting. When I used to slam NR, nicotinamide riboside. I think it was a few years ago. I did it for about a year, and then I was reading people could get side effects from taking it long term because NR has some cofactors to convert into NAD and NADH, NMN. Like you need cofactors to convert, and it'll deplete your body of those cofactors over time. So people were finding like fatigue, depression, even anxiety and stuff from taking nicotinamide riboside, NR. Because there's companies out there, won't name names, selling them, but it's like $60 a bottle, for a month's supply or whatever. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Incredible.
I'd rather take systemic enzymes with that money. But do you think we should avoid muscle meats or just limit them? Someone asks.
Well, let's see. I would say probably limit them, because you're talking about if your body's constantly used to obtaining nutrients from meat, then you're going to have a detriment by just removing it all. So, for example, if your body's completely used to getting vitamin A and not converting vitamin A, guess what's going to happen when you take away your vitamin A? It's going to drop. Guess what's going to happen when your body is not used to obtaining creatine from a food, and now all of a sudden there's no creatine? You're going to have a health problem. So the older we are, the more we don't want to remove something entirely from the diet. We just want to remove something into a lower stage. We want to move more towards organ anyway. Meat was thrown as scraps to the dogs. They ate the organs. That's what they did. They pulled out the intestines. They ate it right there. They take the meat home and they would slam it with all kinds of berries and make a pemmican out of it. The meat was secondary. It wasn't first. It wasn't the most important thing. So you gotta be cognizant of your age, what you're obtaining from the foods, and what you would replace it with if you were going to. That's my advice.
That was awesome. It's funny you bring up pemmican. I just bought an Excalibur again. I bought like 3 over the years because I kept just forgetting them during moves and stuff. And I'm going to make some pemmican. The cool thing about pemmican is it's essentially raw meat. I mean, you can dehydrate it for 24 hours, at 118 or whatever, and that's a lot better, right, than cooked meat. So.
Oh yeah. I would say the more water is in your food, start with a lower temperature, because enzymes start being destroyed at actually 104 degrees. So if you're dehydrating watermelon and you're going to make bacon out of it, you start at 104 and you go up as the food is drying. And now if you have a drier food, like let's say that you just have some meat, you can start at a higher temperature and not have to worry about the degradation of those enzymes. So you can get away with starting at 120 degrees and you'll be all right. Just going up from there.
Interesting.
Go up to about 140. Because after that, that's when they really start to kind of break down. 140 to 145 degrees is when that's the upper limit.
Awesome. I'll try that out. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm excited to make my own pemmican because it seems like the ideal. And jerky's so expensive. And I was doing invasive deer from Hawaii called Axis deer, and it was pretty good. It has brown sugar in it and not any vegetable oils, but it was just pricey for a little bar. So.
Oh yeah. The natural way that the natives used to do things, if they were in like the Hawaiians, when they would do with fish, was they would put them in palm leaves and they would squeeze citrus on it, and the citrus would cook it. The lime juice would cook the fish. As where with deer meats, you can't really do that, so they used a different method. They would pound it, right? They would flash it out, and they would put something particular on it to cure it. Oh, it's salt. Salt would be the preservative aspect. So salt would be their preservative, the curative. They would suck the elements bad out of it, and then you're just left. But it's very salty. Now you got to rub that off, right? So,
yeah. How long? 2 more questions. How long do you see your diet being sustainable?
Wow, that's what I'm doing it for. Figure that question out. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I guess we'll see.
Link back up in 10 years on Mito Life Radio.
Yeah. Every 5 to 10 years, we should just do something together, because I mean, I'm still going. There's no difference. I look exactly the same as when I started, so it's obviously doing something good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's see. Do you supplement magnesium bicarbonate and Shilajit? I don't think you do. And what water do you drink? They're essentially asking if you're on my protocol, probably.
Yeah, I have Shilajit. Here. I had Matt Blackburn's for a while. I tried different ones because people send them to me. I guess I'm like one of those people that everyone goes, "You got to try this, man. Tell me what you think." And so they just ship me things. My friend Kyle and Rowan that run the Eternal Life fan club, they started selling supplements, so they ship me things all the time. So that's pretty cool. I'm like, yeah, I'll try it. And so I got some Trehalose I consume a little bit of. And, I get some unique things.
Rowan didn't send you people, I hope.
What was the last one? It was.
What kind of water do you drink? Because you get most of your water from their fruit, right? Like coconut and.
Yeah, I would say the only water I consume is we do have some water that I might have. Like, let's say sometimes I'll feel like after I work out, I just don't want coconut water for some reason. I just really don't. I don't know what it is. Maybe I just want my mouth to be clear. And I'll have some water, but it'll be very low TDS. Usually I love glacier water. Glacier water first. It's one of my favorites from Canada. There's a glacier that's melting, and that was pre-pollution in the air. So you're getting some of the most crystalline water before, there were any harmful bacteria and, just that kind of stuff. That's like some of my favorite. But again, it's mostly because it's low TDS. I keep that good because anytime I'm going to drink water, it's definitely going to be away from a meal. I never drink when I eat, so I don't want to ever consume water with a meal. I mostly consume liquid that would be from a fruit. So yes, I will have a lot of coconut water now. That's really good. But summer there's more, and in winter you're just not thirsty.
Yeah, I've noticed. I keep the humidity up here in my house, and I notice when I visit my family or friends and go down to San Diego or whatever, or California, I dry up like a prune unless I'm drinking a half gallon of water a day, if not more. And fortunately, I bought my parents a Pristine Hydro water filtration system, so they have that under counter, and so I have like a little watering hole when I go there, which is cool. I don't have to travel with a briefcase like I'll do with that filter. But yeah, that's awesome. That was all the questions. I really appreciate you coming on. I think we covered a lot of ground, and it's just really cool. I mean, to have people of different lifestyles just having a respectful, intelligent conversation. Because I just noticed there's like carnivore podcasts and they would never have you on, right? You would destroy them. And so it's like, it's cool to have a variety of people on the show here. I really like doing that. So.
Yeah, well, they'd be at war with me, right? They would be mad that I'm eating fruit. How crazy can you get? Like, literally, you're mad that I'm eating fruit? Is that what the world has come to? I don't get it. I just don't understand.
Well, some of the angriest people I've talked to are keto, carnivore. There's like I'll just call him out, the snake diet guy, Cole Robinson, I think. And he F-bomb every third word. And my ears kind of bleed whenever I hear someone cussing that much. I think, dropping an F-bomb every third word is a sign of severe chronic stress. Like, because the brain's stressed, you're going to be dropping F-bombs a lot because you're like, wow, I don't feel good, right? At a subconscious level. And so I think it's all the cortisol and adrenaline from all the protein and the fasting that does it, and magnesium deficiency. But
be mad about something. Sure. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, but awesome, Matt. Well, let's see. Any closing thoughts or anything we missed before we close out? Or
let's see.
What are like 3 things you recommend someone start doing that they can easily start doing today? They don't have to buy anything or.
Okay, I recommend the next time everybody goes to the grocery store and you are there to shop, I want you to go to the perimeter of the grocery store. I don't want you shopping in aisles. The fresh foods are on the perimeter. That's where the perishables are. If you just shopped in that region alone, your health would go up very, very much. So if you have a family member and they're like, I just don't know what to shop for, just tell them, hit the perimeters. I only want you going down aisles if you want to buy olive oil and maybe some, some condiment. I don't want you buying food from there. That's where your condiments should be coming from, not your food. Anything that sits in a box for more than a year isn't food. I'm sorry. That's your survival food, but it's not your base calories. Don't expect to get like main caloric source from aisles. That's not what they're for. Another good thing would probably be, I usually tell people, if you're going to be changing your diet, and let's say that it's going to be strict and you're not going to be sure if it works, use the mirror as a good guide, but also use the scale. I see too many people that really don't know what they're doing and they go too far in one direction. So what I mean by that is stand on the scale. Let's say that you go, I normally weigh 135 pounds, but I am not willing to go below 124 pounds and I'm not willing to go above 145 pounds, right? But mark down something. I don't care what the numbers are. Just make sure that way, if you do and you don't have any goal, if you don't have any standard, and you go below that, then you're just going to keep going below that and you're going to hurt yourself. Or you're going to go above that and you're going to hurt yourself. You have to have a level where you have a restriction put on yourself so you don't hurt yourself. Because any new diet is a shock to the body. I don't care if it's even good for you. And it's new. Your body has to acclimate. And see what happens is our body is designed to get us through famine. So usually what happens, the body's really simplistic. All it knows is caloric in, caloric out. So what I mean by that is this body mass index. So if calories are coming in, is there a caloric deficit or are you getting too many calories? So if you're in a caloric deficit, you're just going to go down in weight. I don't care what you're eating. It can be tons of healthy food, but you're still in a caloric deficit. So you're going to go down in weight. So if you go down and down and down and down, and you're like, but I'm only eating healthy food. And then you go below 120 pounds. I'm sorry, you're not healthy. Something happened where there's a health mistake going on. So just mark that down and then you'll have a good gauge. So those 2 things are really simple that you can start. But next time I come on, we can do some advanced stuff for people. How's that sound?
I love it. Well, thanks, Matt. I really appreciate all that. And it's really practical, easy advice for people to start. And I'll put some links to your videos below if you have any articles, just your main material. I love your like legends videos. Those are my favorite ones on your YouTube. Nice. The 256-year-old man, that was just an awesome 4-minute video. The Devil's Bible, really fascinating 3-minute video. You used to have a video on giants and like biblical legends. It's really cool. But yeah, just love what you're doing. I love the way you think, and just that you are consistent, and that you're just a fellow researcher and an experimenter like me. It's super cool. So yeah,
Thanks.
Thanks so much. So
Thanks, man. Yeah, I wish there were more people being, going out there and doing it 100%. I even like the carnivores going 100%. I want to know how long they're going to last. I just hope they don't stop. That's it. I want to know. I want to see you guys go long term. Let's see this. Do it. Man up. Be that way.
Yeah, and I think admit to what your goals are, right? I mean, because are you aiming for athleticism? Then a carnivore diet might be awesome. Or are you aiming for longevity, when you might want to have some carbs, right, and some balance there. So.
Matter of fact, here's a great example. Look at a guy by the name of Mike O'Hearn. Regardless if he does drugs, look at the longevity that he's had in the sport and listen to what he eats. He says that carbs are the main reason that he's had success for as long as he has. In the 80s, I used to watch him on TV. He was Thor on the Gladiators, American Gladiators. He was Thor. That's how long he's been doing this. This is years. This is decades later. He's not only looks exactly the same, he's twice as good as he's been. He's always going up. He competes. He does Guinness Book of World Records, where he does massive strength feats, where he'll run through plate glass windows. He's an animal. He every year for his birthday, he goes and he squats the same amount of weight. It's insane, but he does a squat for every year of his birthday. So like at 51 years old, he squatted 51 times. He's an animal, and he says there's no way you can be a bodybuilder without the carbs. They're for longevity. Because he's witnessed the paleo people come and go, right? That's his field. He's a professional bodybuilder that watches people fail for a living, and nobody would know better than him. So you really see that a lot. And yeah, athletics, definitely meat's going to make you heal faster. Do you know why? Because meat has elements that plants don't. So you don't have to wait for your body to do a conversion. You don't have to wait for your body to make creatine through the testes. You're eating creatine from your meat. So of course you're going to heal faster. So that it's not about that. Matter of fact, my sport athleticism is still there. It's still fine. I might take longer to recover, but that really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I still recover fully, and I can still hang with the best of them. I can still fight anybody.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had a friend post about carnivore people that are using red light therapy, like full body red light panels. And most of the research is like 630, 660 nanometers, visible red, and then infrared usually use 850 and 99% of the red light machines. And they were saying their metabolism is still decent just because these keto people are using red light. That's really fascinating to me and shows it's a lot more than food, because red light does induce cytochrome C oxidase activity, which is copper dependent, and there's also a carbohydrate component to generating energy. Red light can kind of force ATP production in a way naturally, so it's interesting.
Yeah, nice. ATP, there's your energy right there. It's your energy source.
Yep, just be a light being. No, I'm just kidding.
Good.
Awesome, Matt. Well, yeah, I'll have to have you back on, and that was really great. People wanted me to have on someone of different mindset. And we're similar in a lot of ways. I think mainly just the protein we differ on, but even there we agree that there are inflammatory amino acids, non-inflammatory. So yeah, it's cool. But
Oh yeah. Or the more of them you consume, the more you're going to need to consume for bodybuilding. They found that the more protein your diet has, the more your body acclimates to it and the more you require. So there's a good time to actually back off. I even have in my book, the reason why you want to back off of protein 1 day a week is so that your body actually does better with protein when you start it up again. So it does really good, even taking a break here and there.
Interesting, because I just confirmed a guest for the podcast. I'm going to have a whole entire episode on protein, and she was recently on The Doctors, and I don't think she's a sellout, just because she went on TV. But I'm going to ask her that specific question: the more protein you intake, the more you require. Because I've never heard that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, that's with supplementation. Those are with people that are constantly inducing. Every 3 hours, they take about 21 grams or a little bit more, and your body's just It's trying to acclimate to it. So it eventually does. It takes a little while, and then it's best to lay off of it, and then you can start it up again. But some people, there are major athletes out there that just never consume any type of protein whatsoever. Look up, here's a great one for people. He's an absolute animal. Herschel Walker, never supplemented a day in his life. Can't do it, matter of fact, because he was raised very poor by his mom, and his mom only fed him once a day. Only that was it. He would come home after playing, and that was it. That's all they could afford. A whole family. He had like, I don't know, tons of brothers and sisters. So they would have a soup and a little bit of salad, and they would eat bread every day his whole life. So for the last, since he was in grade school, he's been consuming just that diet, and he never got it out of his head. When you're rich later in life, how some people still act poor because that's how they live. Well, that's what he still does. Look at that dude.
Yeah, I found an article here. The only meal he eats is dinner, which consists of soup, salad, and bread. He does not eat red meat, but will have chicken on occasion. That's what the athleticbuild.com says. I don't know.
Yeah. He said that chicken was a delicacy because his parents were so poor. So about once a month they would go over. There's video interviews. You can hear him ask him. My friend Marcus interviewed him because Marcus wanted to know, like, are you vegan then, since you don't consume that stuff? He said, well, I guess. But he said every so often, because he loves the taste of chicken, right? He goes, I'll throw chicken in my food. But it wasn't anything that he was doing on a daily basis. It was rare. Pretty amazing.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to find that video. That's fascinating. Awesome, Matt. Well, I better go clear the snow, but thanks so much for your time. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no problem. That's right, dude. You said this will be a couple hours. You nailed it.
Yeah, this was awesome. And I'll put all the links where you guys can check out his stuff. And I'm going to close out the show, so just hang on. Thanks, Matt.
Okay, later.
That's a wrap. What do you guys think? If you're afraid of sugar, or you've been paleo or keto, really look into fruit. And I would emphasize seasonal and local fruit, but look into fruit. It's an amazing food, and the body loves fructose, especially the brain and the eyes. And as always, if you want to support my work, I mentioned matt-blackburn.com. That's all my recommended products. I have blog posts, recipes now. And then my brand is mitolife.co. And that's a growing line of products, of things that I take myself. I have systemic enzymes on there, which help to dissolve fibrin, fibrosis. On my website, Matt Blackburn, I have the CLF protocol, calcification, lipofuscin, fibrosis, and manual body work, and systemic enzymes, magnesium bicarbonate, Shilajit, real water, vitamin E for the lipofuscin. All these things play together in the protocol, and I really lay it out. I think it's the root cause of a lot of issues, especially the inability to digest sugar. I think if you can't process sugar, then you have PUFA overload or PUFA poisoning, polyunsaturated fatty acid or omega-3 poisoning. Today's quote is by Walter Kempner. Eat simple food simply.